I mentioned that I was going to do this in my previous video, so here it is. With Adobe Flash coming to an end and support dropping, I've compiled all the Flash Games episodes I've done over the years into one mega compilation for anyone to binge through whenever they want. Now for newcomers here, I will say that not every single game I cover in these episodes is Flash-based, but the mass majority are, and I usually mention it. But for the times that I don't, oops. So sit back, relax, and enjoy all the videos I've done on Flash games throughout the years. So Pokemon, it's all the rage right now. In fact, I haven't seen it get this much attention since the franchise first debuted almost like 20 years ago. I remember when I was a kid and Pokemon was all over the news. It was the newest craze and the media just didn't understand it. And we all know that whenever the media doesn't understand something, it criticizes and bashes it. And now with Pokemon Go taking the world by storm, it's happening all over again. Kids are walking across the goddamn street without even looking, people are finding dead bodies and getting robbed and shit. It's crazy. Well, I figured I'd forget about all the mainstream craziness just for today and take a look at some Pokemon Online Flash games. This should be fun.
The first game we have here is just called Pokemon Flash version, so I really don't have any idea exactly what I'm in for, but it's time to begin my journey as a Pokemon Master, I guess. I mean, if you start off as a Master, it kind of defeats the purpose, but alright. According to the text, the object of the game is to catch an Absol in the forest of Basikland? This is a game. I guess it's just kind of structured like a typical Pokemon game, but wow, walking around is, well, you know how in the real Pokemon games you just kind of walk at a nice, smooth pace? Okay, well this does not that. The battle system is basically just like a real Pokemon game, only way more MS Painty. There's also this minigame that's kinda like jump rope. I'm not sure why, but to be honest, it was probably the most fun part of the game. Eventually though, it gets way too fast to play, and I know it's not me. The game just doesn't recognize inputs fast enough to not f up, so eventually losing just becomes an inevitability. The next screen leads to the forest with some trainers in it, and well, that's the entirety of the map. I guess you just pace around till Absol pops up and then you catch it? I wouldn't know as I couldn't be f***ed to actually continue playing. That and I kept getting game overs, and if you don't save manually, once all your Pokemon faint, you just kinda start over from the beginning, meaning the little XP grinding that I did do was for nothing. Hooray. This one's called Pokemon Trainer, and it's basically just a create a trainer tool thing. You start off with a blank trainer devoid of clothes, a face, and, nipples. You drag and drop different features and place them on the blank trainer. This would be simple if it wasn't for the fact that all the assets are just kind of placed on top of each other. It's a f***ing mess. It's pretty offensive to look at, and it's hard to tell what your options even are because there's so many and they're all crammed into a tiny space. It definitely could have benefited from a simple little selection arrow to scroll through different options. I get that it's for kids, but this probably would have just frustrated me when I was little. Even now, I didn't even want to bother looking through all the options because as soon as you pick something up and move it, it gets mixed up even further. I did, however, manage to somehow match just a little bit. No idea how I pulled that off considering I randomly selected shit without even paying attention to what I was clicking. In any case, I made this hideous thing. What? This one's called Pokemon Photos, and I straight up have no goddamn idea what it's supposed to be or what I'm supposed to be doing. Why are there multicolored Dittos? Why do they all have numbers on their heads? Why is there symbols on their stomachs? Why do they turn into ash? Find out on the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z. Okay, but seriously though, I don't understand what the point of this game is. You click the arrows to scroll through different characters from the anime. Oh, whoops. They have different character designs from the different seasons, and you can scroll through different backgrounds as well. This is dumb. There's seemingly no point to it. It's not even like there's a button to print or save the shitty scene you created, and there's barely any options to choose from in the first place, so it hardly feels like you've created anything at all. This is pointless. Let's move on. So this one's called Pokemon Shoot 2, and it's pretty f***ed up. Apart from the fact that the game keeps making really childish, homophobic, jokes, puns, I'm not quite sure what to call that. The whole object of the game is to massacre all the Pokemon, and it's not like a silly shooting gallery like you're shooting cardboard cutouts or something. You're straight up blowing their goddamn brains out. And once again, we have another game that looks as though its assets were created in paint. Once you get through the wave of Pokemon dashing around the screen, there's a boss Pokemon of sorts that takes a lot more hits. I'll admit I got into it for a couple seconds because I started firing so frantically that I accidentally went too far and clicked a pop-up that was on the side of the page. It didn't take long for me to realize that although the game keeps track of your missed shots and kills, it ultimately doesn't matter because I missed literally every Pokemon in one stage and it still let me move on to the next. My game ended soon after though, because when it was time to kill the next boss, well, the game just wouldn't let me fire anymore. This is a common theme for a lot of these Flash games. Just kind of stops working at random. Oh, an ad for Viagra. That's real appropriate. Okay, so I got a little more into this one than I'd like to admit. Don't get me wrong, it's not actually good, but the nature of it made me keep playing until I had a perfect score. It's a quiz game where you have a certain amount of seconds to click the Pokemon that corresponds with the name that pops up on the screen. But there's two issues with this. Now, I know the names of all these Pokemon, but the problem is when they're all jumbled up in a randomized order, sometimes I just straight up don't see it, even if it's right in front of my face. This isn't as bad during the first round, it only happened a couple times during the second, but the third round only gives you 2 seconds to make a selection, and if you so much as miss one Pokemon, you lose the whole game, and damn it, I want my printable diploma. You know, it took a few tries, but with some practice and determination, I earned my very own personalized victory diploma. Now everyone will forever know that I know the names of 24 random Pokemon that happen to be in Pokemon Puzzle League.
I did it.
This one's called Bond the Buddies. I've got a question. Why does Dragonite look like a My Little Pony? So it's a puzzle game where you match strings of the same Pokemon together to eliminate them. Each time this bar down here fills up, another layer of Pokemon pops up. If they stack up too high and reach the top, it's game over. But if you manage to not fail before this piggy bank thing fills up, you go on to the next stage. I don't know why it's a piggy bank, but alright. Now I assume they intend for you to match Pokemon that are either next to each other or across from each other, but this game doesn't seem to care if you weave around other Pokemon. I'll admit this one is one of the more entertaining games of the bunch, albeit mindless at best. There isn't much to say about this one really, though you do get to rock out to the Pokemon theme song during gameplay, but I had to take that out because YouTube. Alright, so this one is at least moderately entertaining. There's a bunch of random shapes at the right side of the screen that you have to use to complete the picture, which is missing a bunch of pieces. A, puzzle, if you will. No time limit, just a nice, calm, relaxing puzzle that occasionally has terrifying shit like this in it. The color palette... The color palette they chose is a little weird and doesn't really end up looking very attractive once you're done, and there's no score or anything, so I don't know. I guess this really is just a puzzle. No goal except, well, finishing the puzzle. Next. Well, this one is your typical match the cards game. Flip them over randomly until you start memorizing where they are. Match 2 of the same Pokemon and those cards get eliminated. Clear the whole board and you win. That's it. That's the game. Enjoy. What is with all these shooting games? Why do people want to gun down Pokemon so badly? This is fucking barbaric. Why is there so much blood? This is just your run-of-the-mill gallery shooter. Each Pokemon is worth a different amount of points to kill, and as you'd imagine, the further the Pokemon is from you, the more points it's worth. I'm assuming a Pikachu kill is worth the most points because it doesn't actually tell you what it's worth, but he's pretty much impossible to shoot. I sat there trying to shoot him over and over, and it just would not work. Once the timer's up, it's game over, and the game tallies up your score, and you get to see just how much of a piece of shit you are. I just don't understand how some kids are so angsty that they feel they need to shoot small cartoon animals. This one is called Chikorita's Adventure. It doesn't work. Now this one reminds me a whole lot of another game that I played during my Sonic Fan Games video, only instead of Sonic, this one stars Pikachu. Hey, Pikachu, any chew. You know, over at Barney's Chew Emporium, we got thousands and thousands of chews to choose. So what do you choose? We got black chews, white chews, dark chews, light chews, big chews, mini chews, fat chews, skinny chews, over, under, upside down chews. So which one of these chews is right for yous? I'm sorry. The controls are simple. You use the up arrow key to accelerate and the down arrow key to brake. The object is to get to the end of the stage as fast as possible while collecting Pokeballs. But if you go too fast, you fall over and eat shit. Games like this are actually kind of fun, if only for a few minutes. See, the mechanic itself is a fun concept and controls pretty well, but ultimately the levels lack variety. I'm pretty sure there's some fully fledged games out there that use this very mechanic. As for this one, well, it didn't take long till I ran out of lives and lost the game. Ripperoni. Poker Ride! Ride at 150,000 miles a fucking hour on the back of a Charizard, avoiding hazards and collecting Pokeballs. If you get hit by too many things, it's game over, and Charizard gets banished to the fucking Shadow Realm. I kind of don't understand why the track is like a river, and you're flying over it, and yet when these little islands pass by, they still smack you in the damn face. I didn't even know that originally, and I game overed and had no idea why. The controls are super slippery, and it's almost impossible to actually control properly. Well, anyways, that's pretty much the whole game. Next. This one's called Go, Go, Go Pikachu. It's a platformer. The concept is actually kind of cool, if only the game, worked. Basically, you need to switch between different Pokemon to traverse different parts of the stage while collecting fruits and Pokeballs. The fruits add to your score, while collecting Pokeballs opens the door at the end of the stage. Squirtle can swim, Bulbasaur can jump high, Charmander can run fast, and Pikachu is there. I was actually kind of enjoying this one a little bit till the game introduced the attack mechanic. An enemy pops up on the screen and the game tells you to press the J key to attack. Now, that works, but the only problem is that once you attack, well, all the other f***ing keys stop working. Once you attack, you can no longer move or do anything, and it's like that with every character. I tried getting through the game just by dodging enemies, but I could only get so far. It's a shame because even though it's a terrible piece of crap, it was a dimly lit beacon in a dark cavern of terrible bullshit. Oh well. Alright, last one. Pokemon Catch Time. Sounds exciting. I've got high hopes. Maybe in this one I'll go on an adventure to find and capture some of the rarest and most dangerous monsters the Pokemon universe has to offer. I'm ready. Let's go.
It's f***ing Angry Birds. Holy crap, it's the end of November already. I thought I wasn't gonna make it in time, but here I am with my contribution to Zelda month. Now in the past I've covered a lot of terrible Flash games and stuff, so like, you guys remember those videos? Okay, so Zelda now.
The first game I'm looking at is called Robert the Elf, and it's surprisingly kind of fun. Wasn't really expecting that, but alright. It's a roguelike, akin to games like The Binding of Isaac, and just in case you forget, the game tells you. The gimmick though is that it's got this kind of top-down shooter element to it, because not only is your only weapon the bow and arrow, but you can only fire arrows in one direction. Well, arrows only fire in one direction. They just kind of shoot automatically. Also, whenever any dialogue pops up, the game does this like Banjo-Kazooie shit. Not that I'm complaining. The premise is kind of fucking weird. Apparently someone stole your favorite napkin and you need to retrieve it. So, it's a game about finding a napkin. I really didn't think too much of this game by the way it sounded, but it's a lot better than I thought it would be. I actually got pretty into it, and I wasn't really expecting to. It's pretty much exactly what you think it is. You crawl through a randomized dungeon collecting power-ups and fighting bosses. All the sound effects are pretty funny though. I'm pretty sure some guy just like made a bunch of noises with his mouth. The death screen is kind of funny too, but I mean, the game's cool, but just like, you just play The Binding of Isaac too, like, instead. So this one's creatively named, Zelda, or as I like to call it, A Link to the Bad. They basically tried to make a Zelda game in Flash with a Link to the Past assets, and it's fucking god-awful. First off, for some reason, whenever you press any of the letter key buttons on the keyboard, Link just starts, like, running in place, like a hamster on a fucking wheel. When enemies attack you, it just kind of happens. Like, you know how in a real game, when you get attacked, there's maybe some recoil, you bounce back, get some invincibility frames so you can recover? Well, yeah, that does not happen here. You just start taking damage where you stand, indicated by this glowing red circle. When you attack enemies, though, they have the funniest death animation. And by animation, I mean they just spin around in a circle and then vanish. You can talk to NPCs for hints and directions, but even the dialogue boxes are buggy. Not to mention, they don't really tell you anything of importance. Like, this guy straight up is like, I don't fucking know what you want from me. Also, these guys over here are ragging on me for not having a fairy when I'm looking at both of them and I'm not seeing a fairy. At one point, the game bugged out so bad that a spear thrown by one of the enemies just kind of stayed on screen, even when I left that particular screen. And the craziest part is that if I walked into it, I still took damage. That's enough of this. This one's just one of those online Flash quiz things. There's 3 difficulties and you proceed to the next one after getting all the answers correct. Now, the questions are all relatively easy until you get to the last difficulty setting. The questions actually do get kind of tough here, but it doesn't really matter very much because the questions never change or anything. So if you get something wrong, all you have to do is restart and pick a different answer once you get back to the question that you got wrong. You know, I wish sometimes that these quizzes would have a little more effort put into them, but I guess perhaps I'm asking too much of a fan-made Flash game. Like, for fuck's sake, at least clean up your PNGs. Well, anyway, if you manage to make it through all 3 difficulty settings, you get to claim your super secret prize. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. What special top secret reward could I possibly be in store for? Well, you're in for a real treat, because now you get to sit back and enjoy the, intro to The Legend of Zelda animated series in probably the lowest resolution humanly possible. Hooray. Also, why? Cyber Zelda? I wonder what that is.
You sure know how to make a girl feel special, Hyper.
So this is a recreation, or attempt at least, at making a Flash version of some of the minigames from Ocarina of Time. Well, a couple of them anyway. I'll get to that in a minute. Basically, it's a bunch of shooting games that don't really work all that well. There's this swinging target minigame that's supposed to be like the slingshot game from the Lost Woods. This is probably the most playable one of the bunch, but the target swings back and forth too fast to play perfectly. I'd understand if it was just swinging too fast and I wasn't precise enough to hit it, but nope. It's just because clicking your mouse or trackpad doesn't register fast enough between clicks to actually pull it off. I have a similar problem playing this one as well. This is supposed to be like the game where you shoot the rupees in Hyrule Castletown. Similar to the last game, pops in and out of screen way too fast, and it's a bunch of f***ing bullshit. Okay, so like I said, only a couple of them are like actual minigames from Ocarina of Time. These other two are pretty f***ed up. This one's called Kuko. How do you pronounce that? Because like I've been playing Zelda since I was like 3, and I still don't understand how you pronounce that. I'm gonna say Kuko. Wait, no, it's got two O's. It's got two O's. Cuckoo. There we go, Cuckoo. Ha. This one's called Cuckoo Hunt, and, well, cuckoos fly across the screen all willy-nilly at like 150 miles an hour, and you gotta blow them to bits. Lovely. There's actually a lot of games floating across the internet where you have to kill the cuckoos. I'm not entirely sure why everyone's so offended by them. I mean, they just kinda hang out and mind their own business until you f*** with them. They're cool, man. Just don't f*** with them. And then we have this one. Once again, another game that requires you to be faster than it's actually possible to be. This one wants you to kill Navi. Alright, this one I kind of, like, get. Navi's annoying as f***, but like I said in my Pokemon Flash Games video, I don't know why some kids are so angry. So much so that they need to make games about killing video game characters that they don't like. So much pent-up aggression about something so not important. I think some of you kids need to take a page out of the Book of Mannheimer and go outside. The worst thing ever just got worse. Sorry to anyone who liked Skyward Sword. That game... You are entitled to your opinion, but that game is not good. I was skyward bored. But anyway, guess what happens when you take the idea behind a game that I super don't like and then you make it worse? You get this. What this game tries to do is implement Skyward Sword-esque mechanics in a 2D Flash game, using the mouse. I don't really think I need to explain in detail why this is a bad idea, but yeah, it's bad. Like, unimaginably bad. You know, it's easy to rag on these Flash games because it's not like they're made by professional game devs or something, but like, this has got to be one of, if not the worst controls I've ever seen in a Flash game ever. And that's one tough title to take. I mean, think about it. They took a control scheme that itself was fundamentally flawed and tried to implement it into something worse. Basically, you use a few of the letter keys to control Link's movement, and then for your sword, well, you swing it around like a Neanderthal by quickly moving the cursor around. It doesn't really work. Apparently there's a way you can do a stronger attack, but that never really worked either. Don't get me wrong, I tried, I really did. But I couldn't even get past the second enemy. This one's just... wow. That's, not a sentence. This one's called Hyrule Defender. It's a tower defense game with Zelda mechanics and assets. It's actually not 100% terrible, but so far there's only 2 stages you can choose from. Now the gameplay is not totally bad, but the English usage on the other hand, well... Next up is the Hero of Rhyme, a Zelda fan game in which you have to freestyle rap your way to victory. You start off in Link's house just like in A Link to the Past, except this time you're woken up by a fairy. And then you proceed to speak in rhyme to said fairy. You have multiple choice answers with how to respond, and I guess the idea is to follow up whichever lines come before it with whatever sounds most clever and rhymes the best. It doesn't matter what you respond with in the beginning though, because no matter what, the fairy tells you that you're terrible, and then the game presses onwards. Now the next part confuses me a bit. You're thrown right in front of Ganon, and the fairy tells you that you don't have enough rap points to win a rap battle against Ganon. Problem is, I don't actually see any other path that you could possibly take. The only option is to battle Ganon, and as far as I know, this fight seems completely unwinnable. I played it a bunch of times and tried different options, and nothing seems to work. I guess I'm gonna have to just come to terms with the fact that my rhymes are whack AF. Zelda the Secret Passage. That sounds pretty mysterious and exciting. I wonder what this one's all about. Well, clearly I'm gonna pick the green button. I mean, that seems like the most logical choice, right?
Wake up. Time to die.
What the f?
Okay, let's try this again. Okay, red button this time.
What the f?
So I know Chadronic did a similar video and covered this game in his, but it's so bad and strange. You walk around and Link attacks enemies with not the Master Sword, but the straight up f***ing Triforce. I'm not sure why, but the game would just randomly keep respawning me back at the start when I didn't even die or anything. And then once I actually did die, everything just kind of froze. RIP. So I got a lot of flack in my Sonic Fan Games video for being harsh about a bunch of games made on something called Scratch. A lot of Sonic fans were upset that I, 1, didn't talk about good Sonic fan games, and 2, that I was really, really mean and made fun of games that were made on a very limited engine by a bunch of little kids who were really trying hard to make some fun games. And you know, after thinking long and hard about it, I checked out another f***ing Scratch game, and big surprise, it was a steaming pile of dog shit. I don't care what the reason is, this it's garbage. Link moves slow as f***ing molasses, the collision detection is barely functional, and the game plays Link's I just took f***ing damage noise when you attack enemies. It's trash. Stop making this shit. If the engine is so limited, don't f***ing use it. Kids, don't ever let me stifle your creativity. You can do anything you want to do and make anything you want to make. Never, ever lose your imagination. But this shit is bad and dumb. Stop it.
So I'm sure a lot of you have been wondering just where I've been for the past 1/3 of a year. To be perfectly honest, a new game came out and I've been doing pretty much nothing but playing it for the last few months. So much so that I didn't even leave my bed for like a month. Anyway, this video was supposed to be out early last month as a contribution to Dookie Shed's little Mega Man March celebration, and considering I f***ing love Mega Man, I couldn't not do a video for it. Unfortunately, I never finished it and March ended. Since I already planned on doing it and I already started writing it, I couldn't just scrap the whole idea entirely. So, here's my video for Mega Man Mapril. Judging by the title of the video, I'm sure many of you already know where this is going, but for those of you who are new here, I was dicking around on Newgrounds again.
Alright, first up on the list is this one called Mega Man Next. Not entirely sure what that means. I'm thinking I'll just pick normal mode, cause it's pretty fair to assume that this probably isn't the most well-designed game. In typical Mega Man fashion, we're thrown right into the Robot Master Select screen. Oh boy. What is all this? Looks like we've got quite the cavalcade of Robot Masters. We got Tank Man, Mirror Man, Man. Not sure if you can tell, but navigating this screen's a f***ing nightmare. It's super finicky, and the stage you have highlighted just keeps going rogue and bouncing around anytime you try to move it. Turns out Man's name is actually Dramatic Introduction Man. I'm curious, so let's go with him first. Also, all these Robot Masters have, like, concept art that pops up when you select them. Just beautiful illustrations here. Dear God, I spoke too soon. That ain't Mega Man. So I guess this game gives like story exposition through cutscenes. This Robot Master doesn't even want to fight, but Mega Man is insisting for whatever reason, and it's straight into a boss fight, no stage. Wasn't really expecting that. Oh, yeah, it's janky. It's janky as f***. I mean, I'm not surprised in the slightest, but the controls still somehow caught me off guard. Luckily, I can just stand here and spam attack till he's dead. Alright, next let's go with Circuitry Man.
Seizure warning.
Okay, so this one's an actual stage. Now, I thought these controls were bad initially, but that's before I had to do any platforming. Now I want to die. It also doesn't help that the camera is like tethered to Mega Man during any and all movement, leading to a lot of leaps of faith. Now, as opposed to actual Mega Man, where you progress by scrolling past each screen, this one has little portals or doorways or whatever the f*** these are supposed to be at the end of each individual screen that transport you to the next screen. Instantly, without, like, a transition. It's pretty jarring. Honestly, I played a bunch of these levels and I only managed to make it to one other Robot Master. The whole thing is just a f***ing nightmare. But at least the other stages are safe for epileptics. Although all the sound effects are still, offensively loud. I've also noticed sometimes certain level assets look like they're physical platforms and they, are not. Now, I may not get seizures, but I do get migraines, so I think I'm done here. Now hold on to your hats, because there's also Mega Man X next. Great. There's quite a few characters to choose from, but I don't know who any of these other guys are, so I'm gonna go with X and Zero. Just like the first game, this game is loaded with text-based cutscenes as well, and opens up essentially immediately to some girl who's, from the looks of it, pretty much fucking mangled, but apparently still alive? And 3 hours later, she's just totally fine and hanging out like nothing happened. I'm not gonna bother with the story, really. It's your basic Mega Man X premise. Oh no, Sigma's doing a thing, and now we gotta stop him. Although there's a couple scenes that get a little weird, like this one where X has Dragon Ball hair. I don't know. Anyway, after the cutscene, we get to the stage select screen. I'm just gonna pick any random stage because it doesn't give me any info on the boss like a Mega Man game normally does. And I take back everything I said about the last game's controls. I didn't really think it could get any worse, but lo and behold, here we are. It's actually a decent bit like the last game, only, well, way faster. Not to mention, now we have the dash and the wall jumping mechanics, making this pretty impossible to control. Also, when you take damage, I'm pretty sure the sound effect that plays is the Ollie sound effect from one of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. What? I'm gonna be honest, I'd like to go further with this game for the lulz, but I don't actually think I can. It's so buggy, and after I leave the first stage, everything else just starts to lag. Button inputs stop responding, and the game just kinda stops working altogether. This one stage just had me standing at the start of the level and I couldn't move. Then I'd randomly dash and it would just kill me for seemingly no reason. I ended up getting a game over and there was nothing I could do about it. I did try playing as Zero after that, but that didn't turn out too well either. This one's called Mega Man vs. Metroid. Upon clicking on it, I thought maybe it would be like some kind of Mega Man versus Samus thing, where Samus is the boss and you fight her at the end, but nope. As far as I can tell, it's just Metroid 1, only you play as Mega Man. Although I could be mistaken. Everything seems to be mapped out like Metroid 1, but I couldn't get far enough to actually know whether or not you fight Samus. The stage intro leads me to believe you do, but controlling it is so wonky that I couldn't be bothered to keep playing it any further. Okay, so this actually looks a whole lot like another fan game I played a few years ago. It was a Mega Man-inspired first-person Doom-style multiplayer shooter. It was pretty fun and it actually controlled and played pretty well. And, this is not that game. My only guess is that they for some reason tried to replicate that same kind of game in Flash. I mean, it looks just like it, but this one happens to be hot garbage. Actually, one of the biggest issues I had with this was that for some unknown reason, when I'd use the arrow keys to move, it would randomly just stop working in-game and instead scroll my screen up. I've never seen this happen before, but it made the game go from being unplayable out of badness to literally unplayable. Like, I can't play it. I was finally able to enter a stage and the game just doesn't work. I don't really know how to accurately describe this, but it's as if the game only responded when it wanted to. And as far as I can tell, firing your buster doesn't actually do anything. I was spamming shots at enemies to no avail like a fucking stormtrooper. Great game. Here we have what's been titled simply Mega Man Beta, and judging by the title screen, it looks like I'm in for a real treat. The controls are very simple, as I can only move left, right, and jump. I guess I can't even attack in this game. How am I supposed to protect myself? I mean, I don't want to die and then lost all my progress. This is reminding me a whole lot of all those Scratch games I played in my Sonic videos. It always makes me chuckle a little bit when I see Flash games like this where they didn't even bother to clean up the PNGs of the character sprites. There's really nothing to see here. It looks bad, it controls bad. I mean, I'm almost positive a child made this. At least I hope. This one seems to be just a straight up fight against Iceman in f***ing Antarctica or some bullshit. I like how when you first spawn, Mega Man 8's sprite just kind of magically transforms into Mega Man 7's sprite. Also, Iceman challenges you to a fight, but you for some reason fight a snowman first. What? Why? My favorite part is that you can only move and fire, not jump, so it's pretty impossible to evade any attacks. If you spam the snowman enough though, he'll die and then Iceman will take over. He'll use a plethora of attacks to bring you down, but watch out for his blue MS Paint flame. That one's a doozy. Yeah, I don't have any idea what happens when you beat him because it's actually impossible to not get hit. You can't win this. Mega Man Polarity Omega. Let's check this out. Alright, so it's giving me some story exposition and it's all written fairly well. So maybe this one will be decent. Ready? Hell yeah, I am. Let's go. Oh, what? Okay, I'm not gonna judge it based solely on how it looks, so let's press on and see the level design. Okay, alright. What the f just happened? Here we have a time trial game called Mega Man Project X. This one gives you a few options for characters to play as, and you can choose either X, Zero, or Bass for some reason. I went with Bass first, but that didn't go too well. After switching to X, I realized they actually made each character's mechanics like the ones from their respective games. For example, Bass has a double jump, while X has a wall jump. Here's the problem. The levels aren't really designed accordingly, and I'm assuming that's why I died pretty much immediately when attempting to play as Bass. I'll admit this definitely isn't the worst Flash game I've ever played, but the bar for good isn't exactly set very high for Flash games. There's a few levels to choose from, but once again, I really couldn't get very far in any of them due to the controls being, well, f***ed. Although I'm never really expecting any of these games to have good controls. Functioning would be a nice change of pace, though. But I guess that's too much to ask. Because of this, though, the fact that it's a time trial and there's a counter counting down to 0 never really occurred or mattered to me. Well, would you look at that? Apparently there's a sequel to Mega Man Next. This looks like a cross between Mega Man and, meth. Besides the normal buster attack, you can also do some physical attacks like this little air chop thing, but I spent most of my time throwing out a bunch of Tatsumaki Senpu Yabba Dabba Doos. Yet another game I couldn't get very far in, because as you can see, it's super frantic and it feels like everything's running way faster than it's supposed to. What a shame. Mega Man Bros. In this one, Zero from Mega Man Zero finds himself in the Mushroom Kingdom, of all places. And although there's story here, it's not explained why. He's just there. And literally the first thing you do is cut Mario's damn head off. This probably looks super promising, I'm sure, but alas, we have another completely broken game. The janky controls, coupled with the seemingly random collision detection, makes for yet another fan game where I can't do anything because I keep getting stuck in shit. Rad. But wait just a gosh darn second! There's a sequel, and Wario's in this one, and he's got some bad intentions. But lucky it wasn't Sekeful be accused. The f*** did I just watch? I guess we're playing as Mario in this one, and he's got Zero's Z-Saber. You gotta take down these Koopa Troopas holding machine guns that totally use the gun loading sound effect from GoldenEye for the N64. Eventually, when you get to the end of the stage, you fight a metal slug. And its health bar has got Bowser's face on it. Why? Anyway, the next stage you play as Zero, like in the previous game, and it's just a Mario decapitation fest. The rest of the stages you get to choose between Mario and Zero, but I just kept playing as Zero. To my surprise, they actually tried to use some varying level aesthetics, albeit all ripped from other games, but at least it makes for something interesting to look at. I mean, something's gotta keep me entertained while I play in this horrible dumpster fire. The last level I was able to get to was this side-scrolling shooter type of stage, but I could not hit one thing. I tried. Trust me, I tried, but this is just not worth the headache, so I am done here. Alright, last up on the list, we have a game that's apparently a tribute to Mega Man's 25th anniversary. So this one can't possibly be bad, right? I mean, like, all the other ones have been total horse but like, if they're celebrating Mega Man's 25th anniversary, like, that's a big deal. I'm sure they wanted to make something special to celebrate Mega Man. So it's gotta be good, right?
Super fighting robot. So the Crash Insane trilogy just came out, and I figured now would be a more appropriate time than any to give him the Flash treatment. Now, I didn't personally grow up with the PS1, so I don't really have any fond memories of it or any strong nostalgia for it or any of its games, so I think it would be fitting to bring someone on board who does. Everybody, please welcome Cat Icarus to the show.
Greetings and salutations, Gil. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the show. It's a pleasure to be here, really. It's a pleasure. But we're going to be looking at Crash Bandicoot Flash games today, and I don't know if I'm going to be so happy to be on the show after that. So what are we waiting for? Let's do it and see how miserable I am. This looks, interesting.
Well, here goes nothing. Wait a minute. This doesn't feel completely terrible?
What exactly do you mean?
I mean, this is actually controlling pretty well for a Flash game anyway, and it's actually dare I say, enjoyable? I'm honestly shocked. My brain can't even process this. It's like a fucking paradox. Out of all the Flash games I've ever covered on my channel, this may be the first time I've ever had any amount of actual fun while playing one of them.
Looks to me like it's basically just a Crash game simplified to a 2D side-scroller, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean the level design isn't all that interesting or intricate, but Crash is actually pretty fun to control. You go around destroying boxes and collecting hidden gems till you reach the end of the stage, in typical Crash fashion.
Is it all just straightforward levels, or are there boss fights?
Looks like there's a boss fight once you finish the first few levels. Let's check it out. Oh no. Oh no, it's bullshit. This game had so much going for it, and it had to go and ruin it at the last second. So the boss throws 3 different types of crates at you. The nitro ones, the TNT, and just a metal one. The metal box is the one you use to attack. When that one gets hurled at you, you use your spin attack and knock it back at him. But guess what? His attacks have no pattern, and the window of time that you get to either dodge or attack is so small that you can't actually make a proper decision.
Oh, that's just unfair. How do they expect anyone to know when to dodge and when to attack?
They don't. This game's f***ed. I knew I should have just trusted my gut. I've quickly become much less optimistic about the quality of the rest of these games now. This one's another one of those dress-up games where we have a mostly declothed Crash with a bunch of palette-swapped outfits and accessories off to the side. There isn't much game to be had here, and I've covered other games like this before, but basically, you just drag and drop things on top of Crash's image and you make your very own customized Crash Bandicoot. This one's particularly customizable, and you can even change Crash's eye color and make him, smoke a cigarette.
Did you just turn Crash into a giant douchebag?
Yes. Deal with it.
This is literally just moving the cursor around and trying to avoid shit, isn't it?
Yep. Well, here we have yet another one of these momentum-based bike games.
Jeez, they make one of these for practically everything, huh?
Yeah, dude, it's like a new Rule 34. If it exists, there's a bike game of it. I'd like to elaborate, but if you've seen one of these, you've seen them all. You race to the end of the track, making sure not to go too fast, because if you do, you'll likely lose control and flip over and f***ing explode. Funny enough, in this one, I thought my PC was having some V-Sync issue. Turns out the terrain is actually just kind of pieced together.
Not sure why this one's called Crash Bandicoot 2, though. This is literally the only one that exists anywhere on the internet. I searched extensively.
This game's f***ed up, too, because it doesn't even actually count your score. At the end of the track, it just automatically puts zeros for all the bonuses and total score. It's bullshit.
It looks like this one was made in Unity.
Oh boy, sounds like I'm in for a real f***ing treat then. Oh god, no. They made a 3D Crash game.
Dear God, what is this music playing in the background?
I don't know, it sounds like Smooth McGroove on a bad acid trip.
And this camera is absolutely horrendous.
Tell me about it, I can't see a goddamn thing. I also can't figure out how to do the spin attack. The game never even told me what the controls were. I'd hate to use the whole "this game is like a fever dream" cliche, but I mean, look.
Wait, this is a dead end. Can you not even actually finish the level?
I guess not. You just kind of reach a dead end with a couple of crates to bounce on, and that's it. I'd also like to note that Crash's model in this game looks about as dead inside as I am after subjecting myself to this shit.
Alright, so I searched and searched, but these few games that I just covered were the only regular Flash games that I could find. I tried, I really did. I just literally couldn't find anything else. So it looks like I'm gonna have to take drastic measures once again. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you probably know where I'm going with this. It's time to take a little trip to Scratchland!
No, not happening. We never agreed to this. I'm really sorry, Gil. I'm not going down this rabbit hole. You're on your own.
Dude, are you seriously gonna just bail on me in the middle of the video?
Yeah, goodbye.
So the top comment on this first one kind of sums up the entire experience. Since we're delving into Scratch territory, the bar is already set pretty low, but wow, just look at this sprite. Yeah, this is real bad. The music constantly cuts out, and you travel at a snail's pace. Also found out pretty quickly that this is a thing that you can do. I will give it credit for at least having, like, actual platforms. A lot of these fan-made 2D platform games I've seen are just a straight shot. In concept, it's what you'd expect. Just traverse obstacles and reach the end. Except you can't, because the game freezes. I was gonna say crashes, but you know. This one's supposed to be like Pong, except there's a couple fundamental problems here. Number one, there's no goal. The ball just bounces around. That's it. There's no way to win. It's like the video game equivalent to paddleball. And two, All movement is incremental, meaning I can't smoothly move from one side to the other. You basically just need to mash left or right as fast as you possibly can to try and make sure you don't lose the ball. And as you can probably imagine, it doesn't, f***ing work. I better watch what I say though, because I think the kid who made this game isn't bluffing here. Here's another platformer. I think if I ever actually find a Flash game with good controls, the world will f***ing implode. In this one, you go around collecting gems and then entering a portal to go to the next screen. Apparently though, if you don't collect everything, this door on level 11 doesn't open and you just get stuck and have to restart. Found that out the hard way. If you do manage to collect all the gems though, the next screen just tells you went into the wrong castle, even though there's literally only one path you can even take. After that, you just get a game over screen and, well, I don't really think I need to or want to elaborate here. I honestly don't even know how to describe this one. It's called Crash Bandicoot, The Epic Adventure 4. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's safe to assume that 1 through 3 don't actually exist. Please don't comment if they do. I don't care. No one cares. I'm not sure how to even classify what this game is, so I'll just read you the instructions. You move Crash with arrow keys. You choose level with down arrow. You must collect 11 power crystals. About Uka Uka boss, you must go close to him and shoot him with spacebar. But be careful, you must not The game just has you moving around the screen to reach the power crystals while avoiding obstacles. Like the instructions say, once you get to Uka Uka, you have to press the spacebar to fire a whatever this is supposed to be at him. But it's not actually a projectile, it's like a stick. And when you hit him, it sets you back to the other side of the screen. The hit detection on this is really bad, so it's pretty much a crapshoot. You just gotta go up to him, fire away, and hope for the best, because if it misses, you get hit. If you manage to beat him, you win. And that's it. That's the end of the game. This one's a maze. That's it. Also, you can cheese the whole thing by just going out of bounds and moving around outside the maze. It starts to get weird though and starts throwing you into levels that aren't even mazes. You just maneuver around shit. I'm not really sure where the challenge is supposed to lie. Eventually though, I got to this one level and I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to do. I touched a boundary which normally resets you back to where you start, but instead, this just kind of spawned me into purgatory. I'm in scratch jail. Here's a Crash soccer game. It's 2-player only. There's no CPU. I'm lonely. This one starts off with some dialogue to give some exposition, but all I can focus on is how this person didn't bother at all to clean up the character PNGs. This is super common for these types of games, but each time I see it, it never gets any easier to look at. Anyway, this game's f***ed right from the start because it literally does not work. The very first thing you have to do is somehow jump over this enemy to reach the warp out of the level, but when jumping, it doesn't retain your forward momentum, and if you try to press forward to DI while you're in the air, you can only go forward for maybe a few pixels, and you can't clear the enemy. So there's just no actual way to get past it. Like, I genuinely don't know if there's more levels because it's literally impossible to progress. I take back what I said about the last game's PNGs. Holy shit. So you choose a difficulty which adjusts Crash's size accordingly. This changes the game's difficulty because this is basically just an obstacle course where you go up a river and need to make sure not to collide with any edges. I'll be honest, this is probably one of the more entertaining games of the bunch. There's only one level though, so once you reach the end, that's it. No!
Gross, evil twins are here. They want to destroy the world. You must find and defeat them. Good luck.
What? Oh my god, look at his arms! They didn't even bother to change his sprite for when he attacks, just added more fucking arms. Are these Ben 10 aliens? What the fuck is this?
Why do I do this?
Alright, so the last game I'm gonna be checking out is called Talk with Crash Bandicoot. And we're off to a creepy fucking start. Crash asks you questions and you type in answers accordingly. If you type in answers that make yourself seem uninterested in talking to him, the game will end, so I had to play through this twice to see the different responses I could get. Whoa, whoa, buddy, we just met. Slow your roll there, sport. Alright, this time I'll actually humor him and say I want to meet him. Oh, I guess we're done here. That was anticlimactic.
Have you finished yet?
There you are! Why'd you just leave me hanging like that?
You have seen all the shit I've had to put up with on a weekly basis. A man can only take so much.
Okay, you right. So Sonic Mania is about to come out, and I'm super fucking hype, as I'm sure most Sonic fans are right now. So, with the release of Sonic Mania coming up, I figured now would be a good time to do a Sonic Flash Games video. I've done a couple similar videos in the past, and one of them did include some Flash games, but I've never actually done a proper video for the series. So,
Here you go.
This first one's called Ultimate Flash Sonic. Much like my Crash Bandicoot episode, looks like we're starting out with what appears to actually be something good. It's based on the Sonic Advance series, and it actually seems to not be a nightmare to play. Sorta. I mean, from my experience, all Flash games control like complete shit, but this has gotta be one of the more polished piles of shit I've managed to dig up over the years. Even the first stage boss fight here is pretty fun. My entertainment was short-lived though, because this second stage has some bullshit enemy and hazard placement, which led to some cheap deaths, and once I game over in one of these games, I'd pretty much rather get kicked in the throat than start all over again from the beginning. Okay, so apparently there's a game called Abstracta, and this is Sonic the Hedgehog in Abstracta. You basically just move the cursor around to avoid shit and collect shit. That's it.
No, 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 no!
So this one's called Final Fantasy Sonic X5, and I guess there were other episodes in this game, so I have absolutely no fucking idea what's going on, but this one's an RPG, and this is about all you guys are gonna see. I played it for about 5 minutes, but the painfully boring back and forth fight made those 5 minutes feel like 6 days, and when it was all said and done, I couldn't even get him down to half health, so there's no way in hell I'm gonna be able to get past this fight. I swear I'm not a pessimist. I don't want to waste my fucking time. Although I think I fucked that up when I decided to make this video in the first place. So as you can tell from the last one, when I cover Flash games, there's a good chance a lot of them are actually sequels to other Flash games, but unlike that one where it was episodic, it's rarely any kind of continuation. Most of the time it's whoever made the original game either just adds to the original game or tweaks it or updates it in some way, making it kind of pointless to cover more than one. That being said, this one's called Sonic Boom Cannon 2. You shoot Sonic out of a f***ing cannon. That's it. Other than aim, you've got absolutely no influence on what actually happens in the game, if you can call it that. There was actually another sequel to this where everything was made in 3D, but once again, that's it. It was the same shit, except in 3D this time, and it wasn't even actual 3D. It was just a forward perspective instead of from the side. This one's pretty basic. It's just a straight-up Sonic platformer made in Flash. There's nothing fancy here, so let's spice it up. It's a platformer, so typically it wants me to go forward. So let's go backward. Oh hey, there's actually rings here. Maybe this is, like, somehow intentional. Nope. Definitely not intentional. Alright. Glitches in a Flash game? Unacceptable. Well, here's a Smash Bros. Clone. It's, not good. Shocker. Alright, let's try out Versus Mode first. Oh. This is very not good. The controls only respond about 1/3 of the time when you try to attack, and I'm not even really sure what actually makes you lose a stock. In an actual Smash game, there are blast lines bordering each stage, and when you go far enough off the screen and make contact with them, you lose a stock. But in this game, I've got absolutely no idea where those blast lines lie, or if they even exist. The hit detection is horrendous, and the hit and hurt boxes just kind of do whatever the they want. Not to mention, the sprites are tiny as hell, so it's hard enough to even try to attack in the first place, and when you do, the camera goes fucking rogue. Alright, let's try Adventure Mode, which I assume is probably trying to be something like Melee's Adventure Mode. Well, turns out it's basically just a Flash Sonic stage. The only real difference is that instead of rings being your health like a regular Sonic game, this just operates on the whole Smash Bros. Style percentage health. And like Melee though, after you complete a platforming stage, you have to fight another character, and God knows I'm not doing that shit again. So in this one, Sonic has, rocket boots, and you fight Zelda 1 Octoroks by shooting laser beams out of Sonic's hand. That's the whole game. There's no goal other than racking up your score. But I mean, with this one, honestly, I just have one question. Why does Sonic have laser beam hands? This one's a Sonic-themed version of Tetris. It's fucking Tetris, man. Not good at it. Okay, so this one's a weird one, and it's completely based around making guesses and then memorizing them. It's a complete trial and error game. Sonic's running, and the game prompts you with a list of choices of what to do. And then once you pick an option, the game plays out by throwing an enemy on screen, and the game either progresses or ends depending on what you picked. But there's no way to even make an educated guess on what to do, So you just kind of have to pick something and hope it works. And if it doesn't, you die. You literally die, like actual death. And then you need to start back over from the beginning. I'd like to see what happens, but I don't have time to keep replaying this shit over and over again, especially when there's just zero strategy involved. This one's basically Sky Chase Zone from Sonic 2, only bad. There's a bar at the bottom of the screen telling you how far you've gone on the stage making your way to Eggman, but it took me a while to realize that it doesn't actually progress unless you destroy enemies. So once you figure that out and kill like 10 billion of those fucking bird things, you'll get to Eggman, and once you beat him, the level just loops again. Great. This one's just whack-a-mole, but I'm playing with a trackpad, so it's not really working. I can't really even make fun of it, because as mindless as it is, this is one of the more entertaining games of the bunch. The area that you're able to click is kind of weird, though, because if you happen to click in the area between two of the bad guys, it'll hit both of them. This would be a good thing, except it'll occasionally snag one of the good guys along with it, and you'll lose points. Honestly, I could totally see myself playing this for at least a few extra minutes if I was using an actual mouse, but, I'm not doing that. I'm definitely docking points for this, though. This one here is called Sonic Tournament, but don't get it twisted, guys. The storyline isn't about a tournament. This game's just called like that. Yeah, it's just another Sonic-themed RPG, but this time you fight Shadow. It's episodic, though, and once you beat Shadow, the episode ends. I don't know why I keep finding these games that are 4 seconds long. Speaking of games that are 4 seconds long, do you have a passion for tic-tac-toe and Sonic the Hedgehog, but wish there was some way you could take both and combine them to make for a tic-tac-toe game the likes of which you've never experienced before? No? Well, it exists. Here you go. Here it is. Here's a Sonic pinball game. For about the first 30 seconds after launching the ball, I literally didn't even touch anything, and it just kept bouncing around, racking up points. But after that, it started actually working. I'm not even gonna shit on this one because this could definitely be a hell of a lot worse than it actually is. Even though the crappy pinball physics in regular Sonic games are actually probably better than this. This one's harmless and kind of, sort of, almost fun-ish. Also, the spikes below the flippers are a nice touch. That was cute. Now, I didn't want to cover any more of these dress-up games because, let's be honest, if you've seen one, you've seen pretty much all of them, and I've covered quite a few in previous videos. But judging by the top-notch artistic quality here, I'm sure you could tell why I just couldn't pass this one up. You can dress Sonic up as Metroid, Zelda, or this shit. It's a me, or whatever. Here's another platformer called Sonic Hedgehog Hero. First thing you'll probably notice is that the camera is zoomed way the f*** in, and you can't see pretty much any of the level. Sonic's sprite is also f***ing gigantic and takes up a good percentage of the screen. Now this bat started flying at me and I thought it was gonna hit me and kill me, but for whatever reason, once you make contact with it, it turns you into Supersonic, or at least it asks you if you want to play as Supersonic. The game was already hard enough to control as it is, but now, in typical Supersonic fashion, the controls are even looser and you fly all over the goddamn place. When you do manage to reach the end of a stage, you need to actually use the cursor to click the goal ring, which took me a few tries because you'd think all you have to do is click somewhere on the big-ass ring, but nope. I guess they couldn't make the entire area clickable because it's got these really tiny spots that seem to be scattered all over the ring sprite in what seems to be completely random areas. By the way, here's, Kaiju Amy. This one's pretty neat. You spam any button on the keyboard and Mario punches Sonic in the face in rapid succession. Forever. This one is eloquently titled Sonic the Hedgehog Game. It's just like 2 static images of Sonic that change depending on whether you're moving or jumping, and it just follows the movement of the cursor. The idea is to hit these round bumpers that cause Sonic to ascend. It's sort of fun, kind of. I'm really not a good judge of this kind of thing, because at this point, after subjecting myself to so many Flash games, the bar's been set pretty fucking low for what constitutes fun in my book. I really can't be bothered to break out an actual mouse when I'm recording footage for any of these, so anytime you see me play any of these games that require precision cursor movement, it's pretty safe to just go ahead and assume I'm having a bad time. Alright, we've got one left, and this one's supposed to be some kind of weird crossover between Sonic and Street Fighter. When you start up story mode, it gives you some kind of exposition where Ryu from Street Fighter is in the back of a van with the guy from Metal Slug. But I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I skipped all the dialogue because I'm pretty much all but checked out at this point. I don't know, Sonic's chasing them or some shit, and then he lands and all of a sudden needs to fight Knuckles. This is all a f***ing mess, and that goes for the gameplay as well. This fight can't even really be called a fight because you can't actually attack. The goal of this entire match is to just dodge Knuckles the entire time and try not to get hit. Eventually, he stops fighting after some unexplained amount of time because there's no timer or anything in the game, and now all of a sudden, Knuckles is on your side and Sonic and Knuckles go off to find the van. And I have no idea what happens after because I cannot keep playing this crap. If you can manage to get past this point and not want to stick your head in the oven, you are a stronger person than I. That being said, I am going to go preheat mine and I will see you guys later.
I never thought I'd see the day that Nintendo would make another 2D Metroid game, so when they just kind of casually announced it after their E3 presentation, I practically shit my pants. Well, here we are only 3 months later and the game is about to come out. You know, up until E3 this year, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to make this episode and have it be relevant. And then Nintendo just blindsides us and announces 2 games back to back. So, to hold everyone over until Samus returns, I figured I'd show you guys some Metroid Flash games that you can play right now. Don't get excited.
Alright, since everyone got all pissy in the Mega Man Flash Games video, I'm gonna start this off by redacting what I've said previously about this Mega Man vs. Metroid game. The first time I played it, I was so tired and I really didn't want to deal with shitty controls, and I didn't have the patience to try and navigate my way through a non-linear level just to see what lies at the end of it. But I thought for this video, I'm gonna give it a second go, and sure enough, yes, you do fight Samus at the end. It's actually kinda cool. On my first playthrough, I figured it would be super long like a Metroid game, which is part of the reason I didn't want to invest too much time into it. Turns out it's only about the length of a Mega Man stage, and you get to see a mini version of the different locations from the first Metroid game. At the end of the stage, you do fight Samus, but the fight is kind of a pain in the ass because the controls aren't super precise. Luckily, the game bugged out and Samus somehow just kind of self-destructed, so I win. Give this one a go, though. I normally don't suggest trying any of the games that I cover in these videos because they all tend to be complete garbage, but this one's kinda cool. This one's called Metroid Genesis. It's a first-person on-rails shooter that's designed to look like something out of the Metroid Prime series. Like I always say in my Flash Games videos, it takes a lot out of me just to get through playing all these games, so I've always just used my wireless keyboard and trackpad from the comfort of my bed. But I think I finally found the game that's gonna make me have to get up off my ass and plug a mouse in. I tried using just the trackpad, but this shit is impossible. Alright, so I plugged a mouse in and now the game's playable. It starts off with a quick little door puzzle, and then it's straight into fighting off a horde of Metroids. But of course, with my luck, I ran into a bug on the first screen. I don't know what happened, but this last Metroid just kind of became invincible, and I sat here for like 3 minutes firing at it until I realized it wasn't gonna die. So I reset it, and I managed to get through the first screen. A few screens later, you end up fighting Ridley, and once he's defeated, you beat the game. I played it on easy mode, though, and apparently the other modes have longer campaigns. I'm not sure if that means there's more screens before Ridley, or if the game goes on after you defeat him, but this game wasn't all that bad, so maybe you guys should try this one out for yourself too. Looks like we're on a roll here, but I probably just jinxed it by saying that, didn't I? Yep. Definitely jinxed it. As you can probably tell from Samus's character sprite, they tried to make a Metroid Flash game based on Mega Man X. This is just unplayably bad. The controls borderline do not work. Collision detection is just all over the place, and it's hard to tell what's a platform and what isn't. There's water sections just in the middle of fucking nowhere, and just like, they didn't even bother to give the game a background or anything. Just like, in fucking purgatory, I guess. Eventually, I got to the section of ascending platforms that they expect you to jump back and forth from, but it's impossible to make the jump if you're stationary. So they expect you to run and jump off these tiny little platforms, which you can probably see here it's pretty much impossible, especially considering that there isn't even like a fixed rate that you run at. It just kind of does whatever it wants. I tried over and over, but I just legitimately could not get any further in the game. So this one's a Super Metroid quiz that asks specific questions about Super Metroid, such as where items are located or where certain bosses are in the game. When you beat each section, your prize is a bunch of random Metroid art. It's completely broken though, because if you pick the wrong answer, it just kind of sends you back to the previous question. So you can literally not know what Metroid is and trial and error your way through the whole quiz. The thing about this game though is that there's apparently a dot hidden somewhere in the game, and if you can manage to find it, it has some kind of secret surprise for you. Spoiler, I couldn't find it. But then again, I didn't really try very hard. But you know what? That's your homework for the video. Go play this game and find the hidden dot. And if you manage to find it, comment below and let me know what the secret is, because it's just kind of bothering me now. Game's on Newgrounds. Go have a blast. This one here is called Metroid Ridley's Revenge, and boy did it piss me off. Wanna know why?
Fuck you.
Alright, in this game, you just shoot Metroids that float past the screen. That's it. There's no timer, no score. The only info on the game at all is in its description that simply just says, fun for about 1 minute. Well, I played it for about 5 before realizing the game doesn't end or tally up any kind of score. You just mindlessly shoot at Metroids. And not even with like a laser beam or anything. Like straight up fucking gunshots. What's up, you little bastards? Welcome to episode 69 of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want, and we try to find secrets and new discoveries in some of our favorite games. Okay, no, but like in all seriousness, this is kind of cool. It's a complete map of the entirety of Metroid 1. I actually got more entertainment out of this than I thought I would. I spent like a whole 5 minutes navigating through the map and all the way to Mother Brain in the end of the game. 5 minutes may not seem like much time, but when you're going through dozens of Flash games, 5 minutes can feel like 12 hours. I can't believe I'm saying this, but hey, this is another one you guys should check out. Never before have I recommended this many Flash games, let alone any at all. But this one's worth checking out, and it's pretty interesting to be able to see how everything is laid out without needing to, play the game. Oh, and hey, while you're at it, go check out Boundary Break on She Says' channel. If this type of thing seems cool to you at all, Boundary Break will be like right up your alley. This is just Space Invaders and it's Metroid themed. I mean, it plays alright, but it's Space Invaders. You like Space Invaders? Cool, me too. This one's a shit show. You control Samus and the Morph Ball by using the cursor to navigate through a randomly generated swarm of Metroids. The problem is, no matter how precise you are and how good you are at controlling the game, the Metroids will inevitably form an unavoidable wall that you literally need to collide with. I tried over and over again, but no matter what, there are always numerous spots where Metroids just are not far enough apart from each other to slip through them without being touched. The game counts your score by going up as you move forward and deducts points whenever you make contact with a Metroid. The first score I got was a 470, and the few games I played after, I never managed to make it back up that high. So I was determined to at least get a 500 before I stopped playing the game. Eventually, with a little help from RNGesus, I managed to pull it off, and no, doing so was not satisfying nor rewarding. I feel like one day when I'm finally on my deathbed, my life will flash before my eyes. Flash. And I'll just have like one long montage of all the time I've wasted with dumb shit like this. Which I guess means watching the entirety of my channel. Here's an auto runner, and it's not too bad actually. Like other endless runners, you basically have to pay attention to the level layout and respond promptly and appropriately. The two input options you have allow you to either jump or turn into the morph ball. There's these little collectible items, but I never managed to figure out exactly what they're for. The game actually gets pretty hard with its platforming, and in a lot of situations actually requires some really precise jumping. I was all set to recommend this game until I found a game-breaking bug. You can jump infinitely. After figuring this out, I couldn't bring myself to play the game properly anymore, so that sucked all the fun I was having right out of it. Anyway, I cheesed my way through the rest of the game and made it to the end, but then this happened. Yep, you're seeing correctly. Samus's ship straight up noped right the f*** out of the way upon trying to board it. Okay, I had legitimate fun with this one for a while. I love games like this, and I used to play them all the time on the library computers when I was in high school. It's called Metroid Maze, but it's not so much a maze as it is an obstacle course for your cursor. Like the last game, though, I was having fun with it until I realized the whole game could be cheesed. At the end of the instructions, it says to read the author's comments to learn about how to cheat. But I didn't want to do that because cheating would just take all the fun out of the game. It's a shame because some of the boss fights are actually pretty cool and require you to take out a few different targets to actually defeat the boss, kind of like the final stages of Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr. It's surprisingly decent game design. But anyway, I just kind of went on my way, playing the game, having a moderately good time, but then I thought about what the instructions said, and I remembered. I remembered back from when I was a kid, and everyone would cheat on these kinds of games. You just right-click. You right-click and the game no longer tracks the cursor on the screen, so it has no idea that you're out of bounds. It's as if you're hovering over the game. You just right-click, drag the cursor to the exit, and left-click back into the game. That's it. Game ruined. Damn it. Alright, what the f*** is this shit? Is that supposed to be a Metroid? Alright, let's go. Ew, gross. So, I guess this is supposed to be like a regular Metroid game, except, gross. Right in the beginning, I wandered around this hallway for like 3 minutes thinking I was stuck before realizing I had to shoot the floor. Once you fall down and reach the floor below, you have to fight this robot thing that takes roughly 500 billion shots to kill. It took so many hits that I legitimately thought I wasn't actually doing damage to it. But seeing as how I couldn't proceed, I just kept firing at it, and eventually it died and I was able to go on. I can't even begin to describe to you how floaty and terribly this game controls, and any words I could use just would not accurately convey how terrible this feels. Anyway, once you make it past a few screens, receding hairline suit Samus has to fight this disgusting amalgamation of a boss, but not before first straight up taking a fucking girder to the chest. No idea how she even survived that, but the boss is too fucking hard and I died. And instead of the typical Metroid death scene, you get kind of like a continue countdown screen where Samus starts rapidly convulsing faster and faster until she buys the farm. I've had to censor it because the game went the extra mile for the death animation. I don't know how to end videos. This all sucked. Go buy Samus Returns.
Hey, paisanos! You all knew this one was coming. Mario Odyssey comes out tomorrow, so while you're all waiting in anticipation, let's go dumpster diving in the Flash game cesspool and see what we can fish out. Boy, I really hope I get at least one laugh out of someone for this shit, because I'm about to suffer for like 2 weeks for the sake of a 2-second intro to a video. Why do I do this?
Alright, so we might as well get the couple of good ones I managed to find out of the way first. I've played this one a few times over the years, and it's actually really f***ing cool. It's called Super Mario Crossover, and it's basically just Super Mario Bros. 1, only you have a ton of characters from other franchises that you can play as, complete with all their respective mechanics. Not only do you get to play as 10 different unique characters, but you also have a lot of different palette swap options as well, giving you dozens of different characters to choose from. Surprisingly, it all works really well, too. Going into it the first time, I was thinking it would be kinda weird adding all these different mechanics into one game that was only really meant for one type of gameplay, but it's honestly pretty seamless for the most part. Some characters do make the game easier than others, but it's totally possible to get through the game no matter who you choose to play as. I mean, this game lets me play as Proto Man, and that's reason enough in and of itself to warrant playing it. This game is definitely top tier for browser games as far as I'm concerned, and it's one you should all check out. To be honest, this game is put together so well that it could totally be a standalone game. With a name like Tuper Tario Tros, I wasn't really expecting to find anything of substance in this game, but lo and behold, I was surprised to find out I was wrong. What's happening here is basically a mashup of traditional Super Mario Bros. 1 gameplay mixed with the mechanics of Tetris. Essentially, they turn Mario into a puzzle platformer, and it's actually pretty cool and it works. There's obstacles that you can't get by or big gaps that you can't jump over, and you need to switch between platforming and platform creating. It sounded weird in concept, but in practice, it actually is pretty clever. Of course, though, this is a Flash game, and it's not without typical Flash game jank. But alas, shit like this gives me fucking terrible anxiety, and let's just say I wasn't having an easy go. Like, honestly, real talk, for just a second, I have a hard time even ordering food at a drive-thru because I can't handle the pressure of the person in the speaker waiting on me while cars are behind me. No joke, if you guys know Dookie Shed, him and I were actually at a McDonald's drive-thru like a week ago, and instead of getting to see the menu first, there were employees with tablets taking everyone's orders, and I told him to just meet me outside after he got his food so that I could go inside and order. It was just my luck, though, that this just so happened to be one of the McDonald's that had the Szechuan sauce that day, so let's just say once I walked in, I wanted to blow my stupid brains out anyway. But I digress. Anyway, before I started panicking, I was actually enjoying this game, and it's well put together, and it's a pretty neat idea. It's totally worth checking out. Unfortunately, though, this is pretty much where the good ends for the most part. Buckle up, kiddos. Zombie Mario! I don't really think I even need to actually explain what's going on here. It's a platformer, I guess. Although a lot of the platforms don't even work. Actually, besides Mario's sprite being recolored, I'm not even sure why this is called Zombie Mario. I mean, it's not like it's horror-themed or anything. Mario being a zombie is pretty much just an irrelevant detail. Also, technically, that's not even Mario. That's Jumpman. I know my shit. Anyway, I really couldn't get very far, and this is barely even a game. Also, when you die, it's like gruesome as f***. So I was trying to play this game called Super Mario, which is a platformer starring Mario's supposed sister, but it wouldn't load. Well, like, it loaded, but nothing happened. Luckily for me, though, there's a Halloween version also, so that's the one I'll be playing. I'll be honest, all things considered, this could be a lot worse than it is. The movement is surprisingly pretty fluid. Maria runs like f***ing Naruto, and the level design isn't 100% linear. And like Mario to mushrooms, if you find a cake, you grow bigger. Albeit perhaps not in the way you'd typically assume. The goal is to reach the flagpole in each stage, wherever it may be. It's not too hard, and the only bullshit I seemed to encounter were these flying pumpkins, which basically operate the same way that boos do. If you turn away from them, they follow you, and if you look at them, they freeze. The only reason they're a pain in the ass is because the controls aren't super tight, and movement is fast, making evading them pretty difficult. I didn't manage to get all that far, though, because to be perfectly honest, the second I fired up that last game, I may or may not have whipped myself up a Bloody Mary. If you played all this shit, you'd need something to take the edge off too, trust me. This one's harmless though, so I'll give it a pass. This is supposed to be Mario in the graphical style of Limbo, I guess, but there's no actual game here. Shit seemed fishy when I started hitting this block for coins and it just never stopped. Then I walked to the right and saw my path was blocked. I thought maybe there was a puzzle involved, but then I noticed the timer, which is fixed at 0. This is the whole game. It must just be a proof of concept because there's nothing here besides one screen of silhouetted visuals and janky controls. Alright, so here's a game where you basically platform through each stage, but instead of jumping on enemies' heads, you just beat the ever-living piss out of them. It surprisingly feels really good to attack enemies, and maybe it's just the sound effect, but it really feels like you're making contact when you land an attack. That's where the pros stop though, because this one's a doozy. For some reason, not only does the camera follow you, so your character is centered the entire time, but the camera zooms out whenever you jump, making precise jumping close to impossible. Because of this, it's very easy to accidentally fall into pits, and it is possible to save yourself with wall jumping, but because of the camera, it turns into the most panic-inducing thing ever. Enemies also take about 10 billion hits each, and you're never really sure when they're defeated because they have no health bar and they just fly off the screen a lot, so you kinda just have to wail on them and hope they don't return. The last fight with Bowser takes about 48,000 years because every single attack is just chip damage to him. I came close so many times, but later on in the fight, he'll randomly just start throwing out unavoidable attacks that made me die over and over each time I was close to beating him. When I finally did beat him, I didn't even feel triumphant, just salty. Okay, so despite the controls in this one being a disaster, this was totally tolerable. Not good, mind you, but tolerable. It's called Mario Ghost House. Well, Mario Ghost House 2. Apparently there's another one somewhere. But it's just your average ghost house maze type level from Super Mario World. Nothing super exciting, but also nothing that makes me want to take a stroll down the subway tracks. You make your way through the stage, following signs and clues to figure out which doors to go through. It's all pretty standard for a ghost house level until you get towards the very end. The last room is sort of a recreation of level 1 from Donkey Kong, featuring DK's spooky-ass ghost, and if you manage to make it through, you win. Hooray, not total trash. This one in concept is a pretty neat idea, but in practice, not so much. It's supposed to be a 2D reimagining of Super Mario 64, but it also adds in elements from other games like Flood from Mario Sunshine and those launch star things from Galaxy. Games like this actually make me kinda mad because I really do like the idea of it. But just like almost every other Flash game, it's ruined by bad controls and overall bad design. Also, for some reason, there's an FPS counter in the corner. I personally won't settle for any Flash games under 4K 60 FPS. As sloppy as this game is, I did play it for a pretty long while. That is until I got to this part with the bully from Snowman's Land. Not only is it difficult as hell to actually land hits on him and bump him back, but knocking him off the platform doesn't even actually kill him like it does in Super Mario 64. He just kind of hops back onto the platform. It wasn't until like 6 frustrating deaths later that I realized that you need to knock him off like 3 damn times. This is, well, it's a Flash Mario game. It's not horrible. It is, however, pretty difficult due to rogue hitboxes. The art style isn't bad in and of itself, and it's really colorful, but this kind of sprite art just reminds me of cheap mobile games. The object of each stage is to find the hidden key somewhere in the level and then make your way to the exit. When you beat a level, another door opens up in the hub. I tried really hard to like this, but those hitboxes just made me f***ing rage quit. Here's another one of those games where you drive through a course using the arrow keys to balance. As always, if you fall over, you f***ing spontaneously combust. Now, when I first started this game up and realized what was going on, I tried to actually get into it and see how far I could go. The idea is that when you first start out, you can't get very far, but you earn money as you play to buy upgrades for your truck. Well, I kept playing and ended up upgrading everything as far as I could and still couldn't even make it remotely close to the end of the track. Great. Here's one where you play as Marco from Metal Slug. It's so bad, dude. It's also extremely short despite the fact that I wasted a lot of time perpetually dying. It wasn't until after I beat the level that I realized that the game has a bunch of different parts all hosted separately on Newgrounds, but I think I'd rather stick my head in a pot of boiling water than play more of this one. Also didn't realize till watching this footage that this one's got an FPS counter too. Why the fuck is this a thing? This one's simply titled The Mario Bros. I have no idea what's in store for me here, but I'm grateful anytime a game gives me the option to play as the Ouija. Oh boy, what is this? Oh, It's bad. This is a bad one. And the thing is, there isn't even anything particularly exceptionally bad about this one. It's just not good. I mean, I actually understand when people have, like, cool ideas to change up the Mario universe or mechanics and they want to make a game based on that, but this is just Mario, but less good. Why? What is even the point? I've got one more for you guys, and this one's just kind of gross and weird. It starts off with some exposition about prophecies or some bullshit, and pretty much just says, in far more words than necessary, that Mario needs to save the princess. Shocker. That's a him. Mario. Ew. So this game's a boss rush, and you control Mario by moving the cursor. You basically just wait for a window that the boss isn't attacking for it to be vulnerable, and then approach and attack it. There isn't really much to it, and it's all just about timing things correctly. You don't even actually need to beat each boss to progress, because the title screen just has a level select option. I couldn't manage to figure out this crab boss on level 3, so I just quit and then skipped to Bowser, who just so happens to be f***ing terrifying. Spoiler, couldn't figure out how to beat him either, so yeah, I quit. I guess you're also supposed to be saving Luigi, but from the looks of it, he's too far gone at this point anyway. And so am I. I normally don't know how to end episodes, but this one I really didn't know how to end, so I'm gonna go play Odyssey. Okay, goodbye.
South Park is old as fuck. So am I. I've been watching the show since it first aired when I was 7, and I probably shouldn't have been, but in the 90s it was a phenomenon you couldn't avoid. The show was in the news all the time. The only other show that I could think of back then that caused that much controversy was Pokemon. Well, the show just started its 22nd season, which I feel like I've been waiting forever for, so I started making this video. You already know what TF going on.
Alright, so the first one I found is based off of a gag from the Guitar Hero episode of South Park. In the episode, Stan puts down Guitar Hero for a game that's a bit more, shall we say, addicting. A first-person game where you fucking shoot heroin and chase a purple dragon you can never actually catch. Well, they've recreated it here with a Flash version of the joke game referenced in the show. It's kind of a funny novelty, but not much more than that. Unlike other games based on games that don't exist, say something like the Fix-It Felix game based off of the in-universe game from Wreck-It Ralph, they didn't actually try to make a legitimate game out of this. Not that I expected them to. I mean, this is a fucking Newgrounds Flash game, but there really is just nothing here. You click the screen a few times and then it fades back to the beginning. Obviously, I'm not expecting much from something like this, but I mean, they could have made some kind of game out of it if they tried. Add a little score counter, maybe you chase the dragon by clicking, but if you start clicking too quickly in too short a time, you OD and the game's over. I don't know, man, I'm just spitballing ideas here. Now, a lot of these are based off of very old South Park gags from pretty early seasons. This one's called Ike vs. Saddam, and after a short cutscene of a badly animated Kyle launching Ike onto a moving train via foot, Ike then needs to attack Saddam Hussein, who is currently flying with a jetpack while firing rockets at you. It's finicky to control, and it's a high-score game, so as soon as you get hit too many times, it's game over. That's all she wrote. This one's just called South Park Platform Game, and it's very obviously built off of whatever engine that Donald Trump platform game ran on back when I covered that in my Donald Trump games video. It's very similar to that game and is floaty with very, very bad collision detection. Now, I can't actually let you guys listen because YouTube, but for whatever reason, the background music of this game is just a remix of Zombie by the Cranberries, looped endlessly. What? So you gotta make your way through the stage while avoiding spikes, but the hitbox is fucking huge and it's almost impossible to avoid getting hit. Not to mention, there's no indication that you're taking damage besides your health meter actually depleting. There's no knockback, no blinking character, no iframes, no nothing. So it's super easy to just take a ton of damage and then die. I never made it to the end of the stage, but I did, however, find this secret area to the left of the start of the level where you can collect a bunch of money, but outside of getting a higher score, I have no idea what it's for, and I couldn't get any further in the level, so really none of that matters. It is still neat to find, though. Other than that, this game, no. So if any of you have watched the show for any amount of time, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Class Gerbil Lemmiwinks, so you'll immediately be able to figure out what's going on here. So basically, you have to navigate and weave your way through intestines using WASD or the arrow keys without touching the walls or any other obstacle. This is easier said than done though, as the controls are some of the most touchy I've ever seen. Just one quick tap sends you fucking flying in whatever direction you pressed, and because of this, you need to be very quick with the finger dance you end up doing on your keyboard. There's a lot of that needing to tap the opposite direction to keep yourself balanced and on the correct path There really isn't much time to rest at all, and you need to constantly be alert because one wrong move and you die in a split second. I don't know what it is with these games and extremely random and nonsensical soundtracks, but this one has you listening to Always by Erasure. Yeah, I don't get it either. There's different power-ups, but to be honest, they do more harm than good and make the game even that much harder. Like this one makes you speed up. Why would anyone want that? I actually made it all the way to the end, but didn't realize I was at the end, so I died and had to redo it, and I was pretty pissed when I realized that I had made it all the way to the end on a prior life. As shitty as it is, no pun intended, it's actually not the worst thing I've ever played, and it was kind of fun for a little bit. Here's a game where Cartman puts logs in front of Kyle for him to chop with an axe, and for whatever reason, every once in a while he places Kenny in your line of fire. You have to chop the wood and get a high score, but if you click too fast without thinking, you'll kill Kenny and get a game over. This is actually a pretty old game concept that I can remember as far back as, like, Hogan's Alley for the NES. Nothing new here. Although you get a game over by killing him, Kenny doesn't really seem all that fazed by getting an axe to the f***ing skull. Here's a bad racing game that somehow managed to be even less good than South Park Rally. You control what's supposed to be Cartman in what's supposed to be a car, but it just kind of looks like a cardboard box. Also, they just kind of shoved Kyle's hat on top of the speedometer. This one is really just complete chaos. The track means nothing because the snow doesn't slow you down, so if you're able to cut a corner, you might as well do it because staying on the road doesn't do you any good, except for maybe easier evasion of obstacles. There's little spots on the ground with Kenny's face on them, and they act as speed boosts. I mean, I understand the mechanic, but once again, why Kenny's face? I get that it's a Flash game and they just end up shoehorning in things that are relevant, but like, there's just no rhyme or reason. I made it to the next race, but it was just more of the same with barely any visual changes, so I just got bored and stopped. So this one's an interactive choose-your-own-adventure where you play as a kid named Ray, participating in fun activities such as assaulting a landlord, interrogating people, breaking and entering. Apparently some girl named Michelle was kidnapped and you need to find her and bring her home. It takes some questioning to find out where she's being kept, but once you get the information you need, you make your way to the location she's being held in, and through either sheer force or stealth, you make your way in. So you grab her and escape and make your way back home, but first get attacked by a helicopter. You get home and then the game ends. This is actually part 1 of an episodic series, and in case you were wondering, no, I won't be playing the others. Here we have the inaccurately titled South Park Alien Chase. As the game explains, there's a bunch of aliens dressed as cops chasing the boys in a cop car. So as chef, you have to drive the boys to safety. This makes no sense because in the actual game, you're chasing them. Anyway, the car is bound to the cursor and that's how you steer. You have to evade the other cars on the road while picking up power-ups and speed boosts, but avoiding things like oil slicks. You can shoot down the alien cars to get some extra points, but it always respawns quickly after. The goal, despite what the intro tells you, is to get to the end of each track without depleting your health bar. The furthest I got was level 2, which is pretty much exactly the same as level 1. To be honest, this one isn't too bad. It was fun for the roughly 4 minutes that I played it. I'm sure I could have played it at least a few minutes longer without hating myself, though I'd really like to know how they missed that their explanation of their game doesn't make any f***ing sense. Here's a South Park fill-in-the-blanks game. This one thoroughly pissed me off. I've been watching the show since it first aired, and I've seen every episode, most of which I've seen multiple times. So I actually thought I was in for at least a little bit of a fun challenge when I found this game that shows you a short clip from a scene from the show, cuts the dialogue short, and then gives you a list of phrases to finish the line. Well, the f***ing video clips don't load. Any of them. And I tried on multiple browsers. I did manage to get a couple right by reading the name of the episode under the video and then clicking a phrase I know that is from that episode, but that only got me so far. Serves me right for deluding myself into thinking I'd get even an ounce of enjoyment out of any of these. Ever played that minigame in BioShock where you have to arrange the pipes properly? Well, that's this. This one isn't totally terrible, but I mean, that's basically just because it's copying other games. You get 3 lives, and your score is calculated by how many pipes you actually used and how many total movements you made. You can also press the spacebar to release the lava early if you've managed to solve it before the time runs out and don't want to wait. It gets pretty overwhelming pretty quickly though, and during later stages, obstacles start getting in the way. Like Butter's just standing here where he very obviously has a clear path to just walk away. So I guess he's just standing by an active volcano for fun. I got up to the 3rd stage, so there you go. Little fun fact about myself, I am way too anxious to play shit like this. And finally, here's one of those dumbass bike games. And another. And another. Why are there so many of these? After all of these I've covered, I'm pretty convinced at this point that there must have been a really easy game builder that lets you just import assets and this stupid bike game's mechanics are already set up, because there's fucking 10 billion of these and they're all identical except for the themes. This one doesn't even use any established character, it's just some random kid. The other two are more fitting because you play as Cartman, so at least that makes sense. This one with the dirt bike isn't even like a racing game. It just gives you a bunch of shit to traverse and you have to get to the end without flipping over. It's mostly just a bunch of cars in front of each other. The other two are more akin to the majority of these games that I've played, and you actually pick up speed. Out of the three of these, I got the most entertainment out of the shopping cart one, but even then, to call it entertainment is a very big stretch. The best part is that there's a remix of the South Park theme playing in the background, which, once again, I'm not gonna show you guys because, well, you understand by now. Anyway, I was pretty shocked to find out that there was really a very shallow pool of games based on South Park, hence why I ended up covering 3 fucking bike games. It's very surprising to me, given how big South Park is and was during the time people were really shitting out these Flash games left and right. Somebody go make more. Please don't.
So most of you already know the drill by now, but for those of you who are new here, Smash is coming out real soon, so we're gonna dig up some spicy Newgrounds garbage to celebrate. Enjoy!
So I've known this game existed for a long time. What I didn't know was that it's a hot pile of garbage. I'm sure most of you have at one point or another heard about Super Smash Flash. It's supposed to be exactly what it sounds like, a fan-made Super Smash Bros. Flash game. Problem is, it plays and controls very, very badly. Now, I'm used to playing terrible Flash games, so I'm no stranger to the shoddy controls, but I was expecting more from this as I've heard people praise it on multiple occasions. I'm not sure what they were all on, but this is a far cry from anything remotely playable. 13 characters are playable from the start, and you unlock a bunch more as you play. Most are returning staple characters, but there's a few here who haven't ever been in a Smash game before. Some who should arguably be in a real Smash game by now, and others who are this. The game has your typical classic and adventure modes inspired by the real games, which even have their own versions of break the targets and race to the finish sections. Speaking of race to the finish, I'm gonna be honest, playing this game gave me motion sickness worse than the Spyro Reignited trilogy. It's very hard not to get hit because of the controls, and every time you do get hit, you get sent flying in 80 different directions while the camera follows closely with your every move. I'm legitimately gonna vomit. I unlocked Jigglypuff and then had to lie down for a few minutes. So there's a sequel, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it is good. It's actually so good that I wanted to play it with a controller. I didn't, but I wanted to. I genuinely wanted to because I actually wanted to get the most out of this game. I don't know how we got from point A to point B, but this isn't even in the same plane of existence as the first game. And the first game feels as though a 13-year-old who really likes Smash tried to make his own game. This, however, feels like an adult actually tried. Almost everything about this right off the bat feels like a real product that actual work went into to create. The pixel art and animations are fantastic. The colors are vibrant and everything really pops. Right from the start, the roster is better because Goku. I honestly, genuinely can't believe I'm speaking this highly about a Flash game, but damn. And I haven't even gotten to the actual gameplay. This legitimately really feels like Smash. I can't believe they pulled it off. And they pulled it off better than a lot of the other Smash clones that cost actual money that I've played, like Rivals of Aether or Brawlout. And I mean, it's got a few off-putting elements when it comes to quality of menus and stuff that do scream, this is a Flash game. But the actual gameplay itself doesn't at all. And the new characters they included aren't clones either. They're new characters with new movesets built from the ground up, and they fit right in with the rest of the fighters. Pretty much the only thing I have to complain about is the camera movement. I never liked that type of camera movement. I'm not sure what it's called or how to describe it, but if you've ever played Duck Game, it's like that. This game is really good though, so if you somehow have not played it before like me, go play it right now. Well, maybe finish the video first, but afterwards, go play it. And as quickly as the good came, the good went. Here's Super Smash X. As far as I can tell, it's your standard Smash clone. There are only 8 characters available, but all but 2 of them are characters that have never been in Smash, so we have plenty of newcomers such as Zero, Mega Man, that's not Mega Man, that's X, and Gamba. So I didn't realize at first, but there's no CPU player option, so I really don't think I can even play this properly. And also, For whatever reason, the top row of characters are only available to player 1, and the bottom row are only available to player 2. I stumbled around the menu for like at least a couple minutes wondering what the hell was even going on. I thought the game was just glitching out and not letting me select my character. I don't know. I tried getting into a match, but it just so happened that the level I chose spawned the second player on a platform that I couldn't reach, and I had no idea what player 2's controls were, so I had to just kill myself a bunch of times and then pick another stage. Picked another one, and oh god damn it. All right, one more time. I'm really good at this game. I won. And here is the obligatory quiz game that I expect to see every time I make one of these videos. Although despite my experience with them, I think perhaps I may be a bit unprepared for this one.
Ow!
Okay, so first question is asking me what the secret characters are from the first game. That's an easy one. 2 seconds in and we've already got typos. The questions it starts you off with are really obvious and easy, but then it starts asking shit that's subjective. I'm just guessing it's asking what the most popular characters are here, so I'll go with that. So the game is set up into sections. There's groups of questions that correlate to different Smash Bros. Games, and once you beat the first one, you advance to Melee. Who hold the power to change to a guy? If you call that a power, that would make for the most ineffective superhero of all time. Also, this is totally a trick question. If you get anything wrong, the failure screen is snarky as hell. I don't know who's responsible for making these games, but oftentimes the only thing worse than the typos is the grammar. For example, who are the character that are in 2D? Somehow this question manages to be both singular and plural simultaneously. All right, on to Brawl. Honestly, I'm so lost in this one because it's asking me a bunch of questions about the number of fighters in the roster and how many of them are new, and I have absolutely no idea what the answers are to any of these questions except for the one that asks me what Brawl's adventure mode is called. So I just kind of clicked on shit till I got the answers right through trial and error, and then I beat it. Now I'm finally awesome. Remember how I said that game made me want to puke earlier? I take it back. This is way worse. This is a Flash game that's very clearly more than a little inspired by Smash. It's called The Fight for Glorton. I have no idea what that could possibly mean. Who is Glorton, and why are we fighting for him? You get to choose between 6 available fighters. All are based on either foods or inanimate objects, but there are also all keyholes. There's really no way for me to explain this in a way that makes any kind of logical sense because it inherently doesn't. There's Strawberry Lock, Peach Lock, Trash Lock, Coffee Lock, Ball Lock, and Aubergine Lock. Why couldn't they just say fucking eggplant? They all have different fighting methods as seen on the character selection screen. Like this one just has a gun, not like a laser gun or a water gun or anything. That's just straight up a pistol. Seems like kind of an unfair advantage. Between the camera, the soundtrack, and the sound effects, this is attacking at least 3 of my senses now. You're probably thinking 2, but I'm pretty sure I'm starting to taste vomit. Perhaps I shouldn't have picked the stage that's obviously trying to replicate Big Blue from Smash. I'm not sure how many times I can sing the same tune about controls being bad, but God, Smash Flash 2 got it right, so clearly it's possible. Why are so many of these games borderline unplayable? This one's just listed on Newgrounds as Super Smash Bros. Clock Day. What is Super Smash Bros. Clock Day, you might be asking? Well... Okay. So I covered this one briefly a while back in my Sonic Flash Games video, but it's been about a year and it seems appropriate to throw it in case anyone hasn't seen that one. As the name suggests, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog Smash game. It starts off with your standard, obligatory for any Sonic fan game, cheesy cutscene that's taking itself way too seriously. Who am I kidding? They do that in real Sonic games too. The first option is adventure mode, so I'm gonna check that out. Last time I played a Sonic, so this time I'm gonna try out some Knuckles. It actually starts off like a regular Sonic game, albeit not good, but the same general concept. Once you reach the end of the stage, you get into a regular fight with Tails, and now everything is coming right back to me. Just one hit sends a character flying across the screen, and it's pretty much impossible to figure out where the blast lines are if there actually are any, or gauge any kind of idea what it takes to actually win a fight. After that, we're off to Angel Island, followed by a break the target stage that made me want to rip my hair out. After that, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. Platforming stage followed by a fight. I really don't need to see any more, and neither do you, so let's move on. This one is an RPG based in the universe of Smash, I guess. At first, I thought the game was just broken because just kept happening and I couldn't actually do anything, and then it just kind of froze. I refreshed the page and that fixed it. Lucky me. So I did manage to get into the actual game, and it's your typical badly programmed turn-based Flash RPG. Using normal and strong attacks uses up MP, I'm guessing that's magic, and using a weak attack gives you time to store up MP to be able to use stronger ones. Eventually, the option to use a, special attack pops up, and you need 8 MP to use it. I waited a while before I actually tried it, gradually chipping away at Bowser Jr.'s HP, and I wish I had known earlier that this special attack is a one-hit KO. Wasted a bunch of time. So I beat Bowser Jr., who then proceeded to fly into the air and then explode or some shit, and then we see Castle Siege. And then Dreamland. I'm fucking lost, man. DDD gives us a nice little seizure. He apparently called a meeting that if you don't attend, you die. And unfortunately, Waddle Dee forgot all about it, so now it's time to Dio? Turns out this was only episode 1, and the Bowser Jr. fight was the only one in the game. I don't know if they made a part 2, but seeing as how I have no idea what's supposed to be going on in this story, I'm not invested enough to find out. Ultimate Super Brawl. There's 3 characters, and I'm pretty sure most of you won't even recognize the couple that I managed to recognize. There's Jazz Jackrabbit from Jazz Jackrabbit, Zool from Zool, and a caveman. He's got to be from a game, I'm sure, but I have no idea what it could possibly be. And par for the course with these, like the other Smash clones, it controls badly, is buggy as hell, and it's just all around very not good. Unlike Smash though, this one has a health bar like a regular fighting game. I'll admit it's kind of cool that they made a game that included a couple pretty much forgotten video game characters, but outside of that, we have just yet another in a long list of unremarkable and forgettable dime a dozen Flash games that try to emulate a popular series. And thus, the ending of this video is now just as anticlimactic as most of the games I covered, or at least that's the excuse I'm going with. Thank you all for watching, have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care. Hi, Johnny.
So it's become almost tradition at this point where when a new big game comes out, I take a look at some Flash games related to said game to celebrate. Well, most of you guys already know the drill by now. Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out, so let's look at some garbage on Newgrounds.
So this first one is just called Kingdom Hearts 1. Now, I haven't played much of Kingdom Hearts myself, but I did play at least a couple hours into the first game, and from what I can tell, this seems to be this person's interpretation of the first game. We start off in the area where you have to pick either the sword, shield, or staff. In most games, I do choose the offensive option, so I've got to say I do indeed wish for the strength. Right after choosing, we immediately go into a battle with a bunch of Heartless. Unfortunately, a gigantic paragraph of text pops up at the top of the screen informing us how to move and attack, but also to tell us that that's all there is to the game. I can walk around clumsily swinging my sword, specifically a Keyblade for some reason, at enemies, but it essentially does nothing. That's about it. Okay, so let's go back, start over, and pick a different option. This time I went with the shield. I doubt this guy made any further progress overall, but I'm sure he at least made slightly different animations for each weapon. Nope. Same thing. Nothing changed. Alright. Here's Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts, Episode 1. The game opens up with Sora running into Axel, who tells us Riku has to send a secret message, but he can't tell us where because it is secret. And then he fights us. This part's supposed to serve as a tutorial, but pretty much all you need to do is spam attack. Eventually he goes down and then tells us tomorrow he'll teach us magic. Can't wait. Next scene opens up and Sora's laying in a bed but gets awoken by a loud noise. He goes out to check and sure enough, there's a Heartless that we need to fight. Only this time our enemy's HP isn't visible. It's irrelevant though, because once again, you could just spam attack till it's down. We then run into Axel, who tells us to run away right before getting attacked by a group of Heartless. Sora returns home, but then quickly realizes he should have stayed behind and helped Axel. He then grabs a few potions and heads back to help him. Unfortunately for him, he trips on a pillow or chair or some shit, gets knocked out cold for hours. Well, now we're too late and Axel dies, I guess, and the episode ends. And I gotta say, as much as I may be on the edge of my seat right now, wondering about the epic conclusion, I don't think I'll be playing episode 2. Well, I'm sure most of you probably thought I'd find a ton of Flash games based on Kingdom Hearts. I know I did. Seemed like the perfect candidate, but well, if I'm covering one of these, then you know I must have been desperate. Here's another one of these dumbass dress-up games, where they give you a character and then a bunch of either outfits or color swaps to mess around with to make your own custom version of your favorite characters. In this case, it's Roxas, and probably the least amount of options that I've seen for one of these. Also, Roxas looks gross. At least this one isn't a jumbled mess of movable images like a lot of the other ones. In any case, I made Hot Topic Roxas. Enjoy. So this one's called Kingdom Hearts New Adventure Episode 0. This game starts off with Sora walking up to an unknown NPC and speaking with them. They immediately pick a fight and we get into a battle. However, they just kind of stand there and let us wail away at them until their HP is all gone and we win. The mysterious enemy fades away, but now we're faced against Shadow Sora, who was wielding a Keyblade and proceeds to spam attack us, and there's literally nothing that can be done about it. You can't win the fight. Attacking him does nothing because his HP regenerates faster than it can be depleted. Eventually, your HP drains completely. Sora gets knocked out and the game ends. It says more episodes are coming, but I don't think any actually exist. I feel like most of these games aren't fleshed out in the slightest and end just as quickly as they start. I thought I was going to be fighting with controls and complaining about gameplay, but I have yet to play an actual game. Let's see what else we can find. Okay, so here's another one called Kingdom Hearts 3 Demo. Judging by the name, I'm not very hopeful that this one's going to be jam-packed with content either. And sure enough, I was right. In case anyone's wondering, I got a whole 1 minute and 13 seconds of playtime out of this one, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you guys anyway. One thing I will note is that when you first load the game up, the Disney Interactive Studios logo pops up, and I can't know this for sure without researching, but I'm going to make an educated guess here and say I don't think they had any hand in developing or publishing this one. Just call it a hunch. This also applies to the Square Enix logo that pops up right after. It starts off with a difficulty selection screen, which I find just a bit peculiar considering there's only one fucking option. So we select beginner, which is the only difficulty available, and immediately we see well, I'd call it a cutscene, but it's just a static image with text over it telling us that Goofy's been kidnapped. Apparently this letter was written by Mickey and he sends a gummy ship out to bring us to the castle to save Goofy. We then randomly appear in a level where we can walk around with the left and right arrows, and attack by pressing down. You press the down key to swing the Keyblade. Very intuitive. You walk from left to right, making your way to the end of the stage while defeating Heartless that pop up along the way. At the end of the very short stage lies the ship, which you then enter, followed by a quick cutscene showing the ship sailing to the castle. And then the game ends. Great. I pretty much know roughly 8 things about Kingdom Hearts, so this one should be fun. Well, if the first question is anything to go by, maybe it won't be very difficult for me after all. Oh, why? Okay, second question is who composed the series soundtrack? Alright, we know that one. After the third one, though, I started having trouble, so I just kind of clicked shit and then memorized the answers accordingly till I won. Oops. Here's another turn-based RPG. Right on the title screen, we have Roxas doing some sick skateboard moves, so this one's gotta be good, right? I love when Flash games like this use assets they straight up made in f***ing paint. So this game starts off with Riku running away to seek out the king, but immediately, after going like 10 feet, we get attacked by a Heartless and start our first turn-based battle. You quickly find out pretty much all you need to do in this game. Attack as much as you can until your health drops too low, then heal yourself. Rinse and repeat. I never found a real reason to use magic because it takes a couple turns to charge back up before you can use it again, and after using it, you can't heal yourself either, so it's pretty useless. So after defeating a couple smaller enemies and then what I guess is a boss fight with Luxord, we get approached by Selphie, who basically just came by to say good luck. Alright. Once Sora leaves, she has all these flashbacks about the good times they had together, which is comprised of 2 static images, one of which she's all the way in the back trying to keep up with everyone else, and the other she's not even a part of. Maybe she should get some new friends. So then we find Titus standing in front of the keyhole and he won't let us through. He's trying to protect Sora, but despite pleading his case, Sora knocks him out and just goes in anyway. Twilight Town is the only stage currently selectable, so we have to go there first. A mysterious voice asks us which we believe. I always liked light more than dark, despite the amount of newcomers on my channel calling me an edgelord, so I'm gonna go with that. We then get attacked by a clothed Roxas, and we're back into another battle. Same shit as before, and he eventually goes down. After that, we get to Twilight Town and immediately into a fight with Maleficent. Once we win, she explodes, and then we're off once again. It really is the same shit over and over from here on out. There isn't much dialogue despite the game trying to be an RPG, and we're thrown into battles before anything's really explained. We go to Halloween Town, we fight Oogie Boogie. We go to Olympus Coliseum, we fight one of the 3 optional enemies. At the time, I thought it was mandatory, but upon looking at my footage, the button that lets you proceed to the next world was already there. In any case, I picked Sephiroth. Spam attacked him, then he died, and now we're off to Castle Oblivion. Riku gets attacked by Marluxia, and then we have to fight our own battle. Once our fight ends, we stumble upon Riku and Marluxia dead, I guess. And then the screen fades out. Next thing we know, Riku and Sora are both in the realm of dawn, and Riku wakes up totally unscathed despite the bloodbath that just occurred. A door appears, and then the game ends on an "or is it?" cliffhanger, and then the credits roll. What an adventure. Finally, something a little different. This one's a beat-em-up style game, so you can move left and right, jump, and attack. Also, there's no music. You attack all the enemies on screen, and once you defeated all of them, you move on to the next screen. The difference here, though, is that instead of going to the next screen in the same stage, each screen is a new level. Something tells me this one's not gonna last very long. After a few screens, you have to fight old Zex here, but he's way harder than any enemy you have to fight previously, and I'm not even really sure his attacks are able to be dodged. I couldn't beat him and then I died. There's no continues, and I'm not starting over from the beginning, so that's all she wrote. And last up, we have Kingdom Hearts Coliseum of Oblivion. It's yet another quote-unquote turn-based RPG. And it starts off with Sora in an unknown place, once again confronting Axel, this time blaming him for however he got wherever it is that he is. Axel says he knows where he is right now, and he could tell him, but he would much rather fight him first. So we do that. And you spam attack till his HP is gone. You beat him, and then he tells us that despite it appearing to be Castle of Oblivion, it's actually the Coliseum of Oblivion. Whatever that's supposed to be. Axel then goes on to explain what it is, and he says that it's like Castle of Oblivion, but instead of fighting for a reason, you have to fight for no reason. So mysterious. That's that deep, intricate story I'm looking for. Well, Axel explains basically nothing, and then episode 1 ends. A very thrilling minute and 45 seconds of gameplay, if I do say so myself. Well, let's check out part 2. So episode 2 starts us out on Destiny Islands, with once again seemingly no explanation as to how or why we ended up here. Sora gets all aggro because he doesn't want anyone to call him Sora, but all the other characters keep teasing him by calling him Sora. It's 5th grade all over again. So Sora then proceeds to beat the piss out of all of his friends. Sora walks away, and suddenly he's through a door, which then disappears. We get into a battle with whatever the f this is, and then quickly find out that the fights in this game are very much like one of the other games I played earlier. Attack until your health gets low, and then heal yourself back up. Over and over and over. Next, we get into yet another fight with Axel, but to be honest, I was getting annoyed with only being able to attack a little bit and then needing to heal up. So instead, I tried to see how many times I could heal, that way I'd have more HP and wouldn't have to take so long in between attacking. Well, I tried it, and then this happened. It doesn't stop, by the way. You can keep going forever. So with ample HP, I made quick work of Axel, and then came the credits. And it seems only fitting that I end this video just as abruptly as all these games seem to end.
This all sucked. Let me just start off by saying this is basically a Flash Games video, but we're just rolling with a new title now, okay? Okay. SpongeBob SquarePants is one of the biggest and most successful cartoon series to ever exist. Speaking from experience, you'd be hard-pressed to make a SpongeBob reference in public and not have someone laugh or nod in approval or even join in. Considering its size and the demographic the series is targeted at, it's no surprise to me that the internet would be littered with free online Flash games based on SpongeBob. I myself remember many an afternoon in my school's library on the computer playing some terrible Flash game instead of doing my schoolwork. And now, playing these games is work, so I guess I sealed my own fate. So without further ado, let's take a look at what online SpongeBob garbage I managed to find. But first, a little further ado to talk about this video's sponsor, Skillshare.
I think all of us can learn some new stuff, right? I know I can. And there's no better way to learn a new skill online than with Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes from graphic design, animation, music, and even marketing or productivity. Being a video producer myself, I'm always looking for ways to improve, and I'm really interested in the video editing courses, because Skillshare isn't just a way to learn a new skill, but also a way to hone existing ones. If you want to start checking out some courses today, you can click the link in the description to sign up and get 2 months of Skillshare for free, and if you decide you like the service, an annual subscription is less than $10 a month, which is drastically more affordable than any kind of in-person classes or workshops. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to do that thing you were always interested in doing but never did, or just want to get better at the things you already do, give Skillshare a try and learn a thing or two. And now for the SpongeBob garbage you guys are eagerly waiting to see. So this first one is called Spongeboarding. The object and controls are simple. Use the left and right arrow keys to make SpongeBob turn as you make your way through the course while collecting jellyfish and avoiding hitting Gary. My initial thought was that it's akin to an arcade game that keeps going and going, but I was never able to actually survive long enough for the counter to make it to 0. If you happen to collide with a wall, you can pretty much say goodbye to whatever little influence you had on movement. The further you progress, the harder it gets, but eventually it just starts throwing out Garys that are way too hard, probably impossible to actually avoid annoyed because of how stiff the turning is. I also find it pretty amusing that the health bar doesn't actually decrease, it just kind of looks like they threw it in MS Paint and dragged one side of it. I don't know what happens when the timer actually runs out, but I think I have enough experience with these types of games to assume it doesn't do anything more than end the game and display your score just like it does when you run out of health. SpongeBob's Christmas Delivery. SpongeBob's Christmas Delivery. SpongeBob. It's Christmas Eve and the reindeer are poorly. Poorly what? Help SpongeBob, Sandy, Squidward, and no Oxford comma to deliver the presents by Christmas morning. It's a dirt bike game again. It's inevitable. I can't make a video on this kind of subject without running into these. They follow me everywhere. The only difference with this one is that instead of the bumps in the road flipping your vehicle over and making you explode, this time you have a sleigh in tow that's full of presents, and if the ride is too bumpy, they fall out. You need to have a certain amount left by the end of the stage to progress. Also, this game kinda lies in more ways than one. So in the beginning, it lists all the SpongeBob characters that need your help, but when you start the game, you can only play as Sandy and need to unlock the others by reaching whatever stage is listed under them in the character selection screen. I feel like I was a bit misled, but that's fine, I guess. I only have to get through 4 stages to unlock all of them, right?
Wrong!
Despite the game saying both Squidward and SpongeBob unlock after level 4, the game then changes its mind and decides to not only not give you your reward, but tells you you need to then go to the game dev's website to unlock SpongeBob. I think I'm good. So the title screen of this one is calling this game SpongeBob Shave Time, but the website is listing it as, and I quote, SpongeBob with a lot of beard. The internet was a mistake. In this game, I guess SpongeBob must be quitting the Krusty Krab or something because he has to get ready for an interview, which consists of shaving his gigantic unkempt Davy Jones beard, as well as doing his hair and dressing him, which he for some reason needs to ask us to do while publicly declothed. So you have to work on the beard by using each shaving tool in order. First, you use the shears to cut off the bulk, the electric shaver to take off some of the heavier face hair, and then the clippers to bring him down to a nice stubble. After that, we use the shaving cream before switching to a straight-up single-blade grandpa razor. But, what you're about to see is, I don't know how to explain it other than disgusting. Just please, if you're eating something right now, please refrain for the next few moments. So you use the shaving razor to reveal a couple cuts, which I'm assuming are supposed to be from shaving, but one of them has what looks to be a worm coming out of it. I'm gonna vomit. What is that? Why did they do that? What is that supposed to mean? The game even has you spray him with this worm killer, and then we patch him up with some band-aids. Good as new. I think I've just about had it with this game, so we're gonna throw some clothes on him and call it a day. Best part is, once he's all ready for his interview, nothing actually happens. The game just gives you an option to replay it. I think I'll pass. Here's a platformer called Track the Shovel. In the middle of the night, Plankton breaks into the Krusty Krab and steals SpongeBob's shovel. His shovel. Now a cracked out SpongeBob with roid rage is on a quest to get it back. Despite this game being super janky and badly made, there's just the slightest bit of charm thrown in, and I think it has something to do with the actual mechanics. Don't get me wrong, almost every single aspect of this game is utter garbage, but the core mechanic of the game itself is pretty neat. So for the most part, it's a straight up platformer where you just need to reach the end of the stage with the occasional puzzle thrown in. Only here, there's an added platforming mechanic where you need to create platforms with the cursor by clicking the mouse. I think this really adds to the depth of the platforming experience. It may sound like I'm stretching to give this game any kind of praise, and that's because I am, but I feel like I should at least say something positive in this video. After all, I actually played this game longer than I thought I would. I can't say I'm having what I'd describe as fun, but something inside me definitely kept pushing me to keep going. Despite that though, the stages aren't numbered and I didn't see any kind of end in sight. Eventually I got to a point where I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to beat the stage. Luckily, this game has unlimited lives, but I really just couldn't justify continuing. So this one's actually pretty legitimately fun for a few minutes. Want to know why? Because it's Q*bert. It's literally Q*bert. I'm sure plenty of you are probably aware of how Q*bert works, but for everyone who doesn't, basically it's an isometric game where the goal is to change the colors of all the platforms to a certain color by landing on each one. At first, it only takes one hop to change them to the correct color, but as the game progresses, you'll have to step on each platform multiple times. The game's enemies are jellyfish that kind of operate the same way that ghosts do in Pac-Man. Just do what you gotta do and try as hard as you can to stay out of their way. Along with the jellyfish are anemones that go back and reverse the progress you make by reverting platforms to the color they were before you jumped on them, so you have to take them out as quickly as you can before they do damage. There's also seahorses that chase you and have to be tricked into falling off the stage by using the warp pads located on the sides of the stage. Also, if you shatter Gary's back, he'll freeze time for you. I didn't get very far because I suck at this game, but I had an okay time with it, but that's only because I kinda like Q*bert, and this is just Q*bert. Here is what's probably the best looking one of the bunch. It's a basic side-scrolling platformer and it's called Dutchman's Dash. I wasn't able to find out what the premise was until I got the game over screen, but I guess Gary was kidnapped by the Flying Dutchman and now it's up to SpongeBob and Patrick to rescue him. The controls aren't the worst I've ever seen, but the game for whatever reason puts this weird forward momentum on you every time you try to jump, so you kind of have to preemptively tap the opposite direction if you want to make precise jumps. It's got this mechanic where you play as both SpongeBob and Patrick, but alternate between the two during each life. You start off as SpongeBob, but if you die, you switch to Patrick, and if you die again, you lose a life. They both control slightly differently, but still similarly. It kind of reminds me of something like Donkey Kong Country. The game's assets are all pretty colorful and actually look pretty good, and that's about all the good I have to say about this. Your top speed is reached pretty much immediately after holding right, so most of the game ends up feeling like an auto runner as opposed to something more slow and calculated. You end up just holding right and timing your jumps correctly, kind of like speeding through World 1-1 of Super Mario Bros. Hopping on clams can sometimes yield something I assumed was just an extra hit point, but I didn't find out till I was done playing that it's actually a power-up. Getting one of these power-ups and then tapping the spacebar lets you use whatever ability you currently have. Unfortunately, I forgot to read the directions and ended up playing this game on hard mode, I guess. Collecting these little bubble buddies serves as the game's coins, and collecting 100 grants an extra life. This isn't the worst thing I've played, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited to get a game over. This one's called SpongeBob Rescue Patrick, which is way too vague of a name considering what it is. It's a really, really badly made Mario game with SpongeBob saving Patrick from the clutches of Bowser. They basically just took a bunch of Mario assets, made a terrible Mario Flash game, and then were like, wait, SpongeBob instead. So the game has 8 stages, and the goal is to go through the stage collecting coins, and once you collect all the coins, a star will spawn, and then collecting it clears the level. Problem is, its means of progression is akin to Mario 64, but the levels are linear like a 2D Mario game. So sometimes needing to backtrack ends up being too much of a hassle, and it's a better idea to just SD. I'm gonna tell you right now, I only got like 2 stages in, and this controls like an absolute nightmare. There's no physics to speak of, and the hitboxes make no sense. I was constantly breaking bricks I wasn't trying to break, or somehow missing platforms or springs that I was clearly supposed to land on. Like, this game feels like it was made in Scratch. Also, if SpongeBob crouches, his sprite just straight up turns into Mario. What is this? Eventually, I got to a stage that was giving me some trouble, but after a little bit, I collected all the coins and spawned the star. Problem is, the star was back where I came from, and there were a few platforms in front of me, so despite needing to backtrack to finish the stage, I couldn't help my curiosity and pressed on to see if the stage had any secrets lurking over there. Well, due to the wonderfully programmed collision, I just kind of phased through the platform and fell into the abyss. I guess they didn't plan on anyone doing that because whatever I fell into didn't have the same property as a pit, so I just soft-locked the game. I don't think I have it in me to play any more of these today, so I think this is where our journey ends. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'm gonna go play a nice game of literally anything that isn't this.
With the end of 2020 drawing near, so marks the death of a staple amongst the internet for generations, Adobe Flash. Growing up, Flash is how myself and countless other people on the internet passed the time with endless amounts of games or interactive media built on it. I've made a lot of videos on Flash games in the past, and though that's definitely slowed down to a halt as of recently, I figured with Flash finally getting shut down, it's only proper to give it one last hurrah and do one final episode. And what better way than to check out a bunch of random Flash games based on Nintendo IPs. So for old time's sake, let's check out some Flash games one last time.
Since apparently nowadays it's popular to take characters that are known for precise platforming and chuck them into an auto runner where you have about a quarter of the amount of control you normally would have, here's an auto runner called Mario Infinity. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that, judging by the name, this was at least a little bit inspired by Super Meat Boy Forever. Unlike that game though, these levels are not procedurally generated or anything. It's just your standard bunch of levels you'd see in something like a free mobile game. Gonna be honest, I only played the first stage. I tried, I really did. I tried at least to beat the first stage, but the controls in this game are so jank that I really could not do it. First of all, I have no idea how you're supposed to access the stuff towards the top of the screen, and I couldn't find a list of controls for this game, so as far as I know, the only thing you can do is click the screen to jump. And Mario's jump arc is so narrow and fast that it's really hard to time your jumps correctly, and the gaps they give you to clear half the time leave him just enough room to clear if you jump at the last possible frame, and it doesn't help that there's input delay when you try to jump, so this whole thing is just a mess. And randomly, some of the enemy hitboxes make absolutely no sense either. I'm done with this. Alright, so I didn't get very far in this one either, but I at least wanted to try because it seems like whoever made this actually put effort in. It's called A Koopa's Revenge, and the concept is kind of cute and creative. The execution, not so much. It's basically a Mario platformer, but instead of Mario rescuing the princess from Bowser, you play as a Koopa trying to save a bunch of his friends from the clutches of Mario. So instead of trying to make your way to Bowser's castle, the game's locations play out in reverse, and you start from Bowser's castle to make your way to Peach's castle. Each area apparently has a few different levels, and I wanted to at least make it out of Bowser's castle, which houses 3 levels. It took a lot of trial and error because the controls are just jank city, and the collision is completely broken, but I did manage to finally do it. This game even adds, from what I can tell, kinda creative bosses, as at the end of Bowser's castle you, for some reason, faced off against Wario, and he actually has a legitimate movement and attack pattern that you need to learn to beat him. And you really do, because the hitboxes in this game are so jank that the slightest mistake gets you killed. That's about all I could take of this one. I kept getting game overs. Hey, real quick, if you like the video, consider subscribing. It actually really makes a big impact when people subscribe, so if you like what I do and you want to see more, click that subscribe button and tap the bell icon to see when I upload. The Legend of Escape from the Castle is an escape room game based on the CDI Zelda games. Now, I have yet to talk about this type of game on my channel, but me and this game genre go way back. If anybody remembers the Crimson Room, that was my shit. Anyway, this game is basically like that. The King of Hyrule is missing, and you need to find your way around the castle looking for keys and different objects to help you progress. This one is super difficult. I actually stumbled around aimlessly for a while before finally consulting a guide, and then even the playthrough I found wasn't even complete, so I eventually found myself at a dead end. The problem with games like these is that sometimes the only way to find things is to click randomly in spots around the screen, and if the developer wasn't forgiving enough with the size of the areas you can click, sometimes you'll click the same area a million times thinking there's nothing there, only to find out later that it was just a way smaller spot than you had actually clicked. Conversely though, the actual objects in this game and how they're combined and used really aren't very confusing, and for the most part it's actually pretty intuitive, but sometimes I couldn't find stuff even after watching somebody else do it. Escape games are cool, Zelda's cool, but this is Janktown, USA. Now, this one isn't really a game, but rather a first-person interaction with Ball Guy from Pokemon Sword and Shield, where you just kinda click the screen to make the dialogue proceed. Let's see what we got here.
Hey there! Thanks for rolling by to have a chat with your mate, the Ball Guy. In any case, I have all the balls you'll need. Take one! Thanks for talking to me. I always enjoy seeing you around. You're going to keep taking my balls, right? It makes me really happy to see you. You know that, right? If I run out of balls, you'll still stay with me, right? You'll stay with me no matter what, right? Looks like I've run out. You're okay with that, right? You won't need more? I'm sorry, I really don't have any more, mate. I've been giving you everything I have. Please understand. I really don't have any. Please, don't ask me for more. Please. Please. All this time, you really have just been after my balls, right? You don't really care about me. Even after I put all that effort into following you? Everywhere? It's okay. I do have one last thing for you. Something you'll never forget.
Take me, 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 take me.
Oh, this is a really good line of dialogue right here. Comment with sword or shield to tell Chibi X which game to get.
This one's called Flatbound, and if you couldn't figure it out from the title, it's an Earthbound-themed Flappy Bird clone, complete with Ness's disembodied floating head. Honestly, this is probably the most unique and interesting Flappy Bird clone I've seen, and I've played a bunch. So not only is this Earthbound-themed with Earthbound music, but there's little elements they've thrown in to make it unique. For one, while your score is being tallied, it pops up in a text box just like it would in the original game. You also don't have to just avoid the normal Flappy Bird obstacles either. You also need to pick up the pencil erasers to remove the iron pencils that occasionally block your way. The item gift boxes from the Mother series also make an appearance, and their inclusion is actually what makes the game the most unique. In this one, you actually unlock new stages by collecting the item boxes, making this the first Flappy Bird clone I've played that actually has multiple levels. It's all aesthetic changes and nothing major, but it really adds some depth into a game that's usually the epitome of tedium, and all the sprite work looks great too. This is a fun little Flappy Bird clone with responsive controls, and I can tell somebody actually cared about what they were doing here. Here's a short and simple, but kind of fun and workable Star Fox game. It's called Star Fox Ring Training, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Pilot Norwing as you fly Fox through various rings by moving the mouse, as well as shooting the rings that are blocked by these red X's. It's very, very short, and there's only one stage, but it actually does control pretty spot on. I mean, it's just my mouse, and I wasn't super great at it because I'm controlling it with a trackpad right now, but the way they animated the R-Wing actually does make the movement look pretty fluid. The game basically works on a score system, and there's 50 rings in the stage, but you don't actually rack up a score by getting the most rings, but rather how many you get consecutively, and that determines your overall score, which equates to a letter grade. I could only get an E. This is Sonic Adventure 2 all over again.
Barely made it.
This game is an okay little time waster, but honestly, it was just kind of nice to see any Star Fox representation at all. I really didn't expect to. There isn't all that much to say about this one because it's basically like RC Pro-Am, but F-Zero. You play as Captain Falcon through a pretty short story mode where you're pit against 4 different total racers. Once you beat one, you get a little paragraph to read about your next opponent. Rinse and repeat. Outside of the aesthetic and music, this really is just like any other top-down toy car style racing game. Once you beat the 4 different racers, that's the end of the game. Though there is a hyper mode that lets you drive super fast in an open track since the developers slowed down the cars in the game to avoid collision problems. This is fine. It exists. Once again, it was just kind of cool to see some representation from a franchise that even Nintendo tends to act like doesn't exist. This one is simply titled Kirby. It's a Kirby game. A very, very slow Kirby game. You walk around inhaling enemies, spitting them out, and swallowing them to obtain the various powers we've come to expect in Kirby games. Only thing is, for whatever reason in this game, every single enemy gives you a power, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. These red Waddle Dees give you the fire power, these yellow ones give you the magic power for some reason, and then there's also the sword and the cutter attacks, but they're not really attributed to any specific type of enemy, and of course, they pick the 2 Kirby enemy types that typically don't yield a power-up. Whatever, I mean, I guess it's cool that they included power-ups at all because there's literally nothing in the game. Come to think of it, wait, why did they include power-ups? One door leads you to another screen, and at the end of that is a door that leads you back to the beginning, and it just loops infinitely. That's it. There's no end. I tried flying off to the side to see if maybe something was over there, but nope, just a cloudy abyss. The only way to end the game is by dying, which, by the way, can't be done by running into an enemy. You literally have to Geronimo off the stage. RIP. This one's called Impossible Metroid, and it's a Metroid game. You control Samus as you walk around this area and need to eliminate, or stun according to this little tutorial blurb, every enemy before you can proceed. Before doing that, though, you need to gain the ability to shoot by navigating to the left and picking up the ability that's being held by a Chozo statue. Once you do that, you can move to the right and start taking out enemies. I can't even begin to tell you how badly this controls, but half the time the game doesn't even respond to the keys I press, especially the one I need to fire my arm cannon. It's doable though, and pretty quickly you can take out all the enemies including Ridley. Well, you don't really take him out, you just freeze him in place, but now there's one enemy left and he's stuck behind this force field or whatever and I have no way to shoot him. I keep walking back and forth, but there seems to be literally nothing I can do. And now I fell to the bottom of the screen and I'm stuck with no way to get out. Wonderful. Is this game really just gonna let me live without giving me a way to get back up? What is this? I did what the game told me to do, but apparently it's just impossible. Wait. Damn it. And that's all the games I checked out today, so that's it, I guess. Soon after this video comes out, Flash will be but a distant memory of school libraries and study periods. But alas, hope is not entirely lost, and though this may be the last video I can properly call Flash games, HTML5 still exists, as well as other baked-in online game engines. Newgrounds even has their own player, which will apparently support legacy content, which is really cool, honestly. Thanks for coming along for the ride all these years. Flash was something I spent a long time with growing up, and it surely will never be forgotten. Not by me or anyone else who grew up experiencing it. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it and want to see more, there's a couple other videos right there you can check out. And if you want to see everything I upload, subscribe and then tap the bell icon. And if you want to go above and beyond and help support the channel, I have a Patreon right there too.